Dex is awesome.
I like the fact that you have. I agree. I love the fact that with lower decks, what you have essentially is something that is so ridiculously niche. Most of the jokes you only get because they're all self-referential. It's all to do with Star Trek. If you didn't know a thing about Star Trek, you probably wouldn't get any of the jokes. And yet,
Yeah.
Speaking of jokes, I'm doing a lot of Salesforce preparation for certification in work. The exercise I had today was literally program a Salesforce application to help ease the administration of building a Death Star. I'm not sure how that actually fits in with any app I'm going to be doing in work, but
no,
I'm not actually lying about that.
Easy. You go to the marketplace, you go, I want that one, and it's installed for you.
No, I think the point was I actually program it myself, because I think certification requires more than knowing how to go to the App Store and choose a particular app that someone else has done.
Are you still working for British Gas?
Yep, yes I am.
Blimey.
Why is British Gas building a Death Star?
Where? That's the next question.
That's part of my Salesforce study. It's not British Gas who decides what I study. It's a subsidiary of Salesforce called Trailhead.
Yeah, I've used their stuff before.
Yeah.
I could make some kind of comment.
Trying to make a Death Star.
I could introduce a question as to why British Gas is still using Russian gas, but I'm not going to go down that particular rabbit hole tonight. But hey, I've just committed that very question to the internet for the next couple of months at least. So
it's actually quite it's actually quite simple. You see,
very well done.
I am tall person who works for British Gas. Everything is fine.
The giant of Wales has spoken.
There has been no duplication replacement with a doppelganger. I am looking forward to exercising whatever it is we are doing here.
Actually, you've got competition for the giant of Wales.
Yep.
My kung fu brother Andy is as tall as you, but he's bigger, wider, because he used to play rugby.
Is he crazier?
No.
Play rugby.
So we're so yeah, but he's into this kind of stuff as well. So you never know. One day.
You're just getting a better model than your tall Welsh friend, aren't you?
Well, technically, you're both my tall Welsh friends.
I know, but that doesn't actually play into the joke I'm making.
I know, but yeah. One thing I do is ruin other people's jokes by taking it literally. Never mind.
I should probably actually log on. That would be a good idea.
Well, yes. The next question was, since it's now 7 o'clock, it is now USS Navis time. And hopefully, unlike last week, we will have a stable server. To be fair to the guys at the Forge, it has been nicely stable in the week after last week, so should be good. They have been very good. Because you just had to, didn't you? Door goes open, door goes shut.
Well, I can't actually take control of my token because he's in engineering and I'm here.
Can you not access engineering?
I can. Give me a minute. I just need to pinch somebody.
That's fine. I'll get Vipers to you.
Okay.
Boop.
I can't access engineering without having. I can't click on the stairs without having a token.
I see. First things first. Where's the shoes?
I'm going to assume that my token is still in
sickbay. Yes, along with the comatose, if not dead, Dr. Jibren and Lieutenant Bravo of Security.
He's not dead. He's just faking it.
Well, exactly. So
I still think I should perform the full autopsy. Then he'll feel stupid.
Well, before we get into that, is everybody logged in to the Forge?
Yep.
Looks like
Yes.
you are.
Yarp.
Nice. Is everybody who wants to be attached to the audio logged on to Video Ninja? Is there meant to be a picture?
You still got the. We will be starting shortly on the Twitch feed.
Yes, because I haven't confirmed whether or not everybody has access to the audio as well as the
Okay. I'm good.
the app, I suppose.
Yep, I'm good.
No, don't go live.
Because I've got 4 out of 4 so far.
Yep.
And Shaun has muted himself.
I'm still eating. So...
Ah, very good. So then, without further ado, ta-ding, here we are. So here I am, at the very least.
Yay!
In the, well, I can't say flesh, because you're only seeing me via electronic means. Someone could hear you, but now it's quiet. Never mind. Yay. Thank you, chat. For that
Just
succinct...
ignore the chat. We don't want to listen to the chat.
that succinct description. Okay. Alrighty then. Well, yes, as I mentioned, last time was cut a bit short due to server issues, which was a shame, but here we are again, ready to pick up on where we left off, which was the crew of the USS Navis, these fine peeps in front of us, except of course for the chief medical officer who is busy in sickbay.
Section, first section.
You were asked to undertake a test firing of a new prototype weapon, a new prototype quantum torpedo developed by the Takarans. The Takaran scientist who has been in charge of the project was brought along with you. Yes, Webby, I see what you're doing. Throw me off my game now, what was that? Summary, that was it. Summary. So, as you were about to test fire the torpedo, a trio of Klingon birds of prey decloaked, one of which transported the torpedo and warped out, while the other two kept the Navis busy. They managed to ambush the Navis before the Navis got its shields up, and therefore some damage to the engines of the Navis was done. And then just as the Navis was about to try and get off after the remaining Klingon ships, because they'd managed to disable one, unfortunately the power went out on the ship. The power has since been fixed. The engines are still technically damaged. So anything to do with the engines at present is still going to be done with a disadvantage. If any kind of operations need to be conducted using the engines, at the moment they're going to be found to be harder to implement. Plus, there's still the small notion that whilst damaged, the engines are still losing 1 point of power every minute or so. We've also got the situation that the Takaran scientist, who was head of the quantum torpedo prototype, he left the bridge during the encounter with the Klingons and has since been confined to sickbay after apparently one of the security sent to apprehend him hit him so hard over the head, he apparently died. Since then, however, the chief medical officer has managed to discover that Takarans have a very unique physiology, with their organs pretty much spread out around their throughout their body, which means that they're a lot more resistant to pain and a lot more resistant to damage than most species. And they are also able to put themselves into a kind of death-like stasis, which is what the good doctor, Dr. Lloyd Bertram, believes has happened to Dr. Jabren. He's actually faking it. So, oh yes, the one last piece of information that I neglected to bring up just now on the summary was that the Takaran security forces arrived after the Navis lost power, and they since stormed off in a bit of a huff when they found out that the Navis had lost the prototype quantum torpedo. So the Klingon ship, which was disabled by the Navis, has been carted off by the Takaran security forces. The remaining 4 ships of the Takaran security force, I think it was 4, have warped out in an attempt to try and track down where the Klingons went. So that's the situation that we left it as last time. Any questions before we go on? Nope. Okie dokie. So carrying on from the situation as we found it, let me throw us off of the night shift and onto the active shift. So, like I said, engines are still technically damaged. They will need to be fixed in some fashion, which does bring us to an interesting point. I'm going to quickly switch us to space.
Or frontier.
These are the voyages of the... Oh god, where did I put that word be?
These are the voyages of the USS Navis. They who deliver quantum torpedoes to brand new life forms and boldly shoot what no one has shot before.
If you've all got the space bit loaded, you can double-click on the Navis and you can get an appreciation for what I'm about to let you know. So, if you notice on the systems, where it says engines, the second column, which is breach, the engines have suffered 5 breaches in total, which is what happened when the first Klingon photon torpedo hit the Navis when its shields were down. That's what gave you the disabled engines. Thanks to the efforts of the chief engineer and his damage repair teams, they managed to upgrade it from disabled to damaged, but it's still damaged. Now, the number of breaches that system has suffered cannot be repaired unless you get back to a starbase or somewhere with the capacity to actually fix a starship. So as much as you can repair the damage and take away the penalties associated with damaged systems, if during a battle another breach happens in the engines, because it is up to 5 breaches already, 1 more breach in the engineering section could be very dangerous.
Okay.
Just to let you guys know. So, we're currently on 10 out of 15 power. In the next minute, that's going to go down to 9. But not quite yet. So, we have a number of issues that we need to sort. One of which is repairing the ship. 2 of which is Dr. Jabren, currently in sickbay. 3 of which is finding where the Klingons went. So, which would you like to attack first?
So, what stage did we get to with the big repair job? You made a big job and it was done. I think it was just about completed.
Big repair job was getting the power back online and
Yes.
reinitializing the warp core.
And that was completed successfully.
That was completed, so power is back on the ship, so the ship is not using the emergency batteries anymore. It's back to generating its own power. But because the engines are still technically damaged, power is still going to get slowly lost over a smallish period of time until that particular type of damage is fixed.
Which gives us basically a clock which will run down faster in combat till we have to get back to base.
conceivably. Now, the advantage the Navis has over the Takaran security ships is that the security vessels are basically... they're not exactly in-system vessels, but that's their primary function, is to patrol Takaran space. So they don't have as high warp capability as a ship like the Navis. And of course, the Akira class, if I remember, is actually able to sustain warp 9.95 for a reasonable amount of time before the engines clap out from the strain. So you have that advantage once you get moving again and you know where you're going. But the trick at this point is discovering where you're going. So, like I said, 3 problems approach us now: is fixing the engines, the problem of Dr. Jabren, and the problem of finding where the Klingons went. So, which would you like to do? Give me a second, actually, I just realized I left my notes in PDF form. So, have a talk amongst yourselves.
I rather suspect that having studied that particular bomb rather extensively, it does give off some rather unusual radiation, and so long as they don't go through Romulan space where such radiation is more common, we could reasonably track that.
You might want to take the runabout to do so.
Well, we could reasonably go at some pace in the Navis, and not need to head back to base until the mission was accomplished, if we were fairly efficient.
We have about 10 minutes of power, from what Matt said.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right, Matt?
More or less.
Yeah. So I kind of figure if we don't get that sorted within 10 minutes, then everything else becomes a lot more moot.
What do other people think? Webby.
No, I agree. Power's the main concern. Otherwise, we're dead in the water. Which
Shaun?
means that any other things don't do anything.
Yeah, power.
And Jan, I'm assuming the same?
Yeah. I
Okay.
can't fly it if it doesn't move.
Well, quite. Yes. So, it looks like...
Fascinating. You can have the Carpathia just fly around outside going, whee!
Yeah, of course, you do have backups. You do have a pair of runabouts, so...
Your runabouts are warp capable. You could trace us with a runabout while
Actually, particularly if we don't want to lose the trail, that is actually a possibility.
Yeah. They're just going to be slower, a lot slower than the Klingons.
Yeah, but so long as we're fast enough to maintain keeping that trail before it fades.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
In the meanwhile, I think the Navis is... I think we might be able to kick something up to get us back to A starbase for repairs.
Okay, so what would you like to do first? Anybody at all? Or we can just assume the engines.
Did perhaps the runabout team, we should basically work out who's on the runabout, who's on team runabout, and who's on team ship?
So you want to send off a runabout. Cool. So either the Californian or the Carpathia, which one would you rather take?
Why don't you take them both? If you take them both, then you've got backup for each other as you go. And we're effectively talking about captain engineering staff getting the ship back and catching you back up.
What does everyone else think?
I'm just worried about not having a runabout on the Navis.
Yeah, we'll just take one.
Okay, seems like a reasonable compromise. Gareth, Shaun, what do you guys think?
Don't we have the one that we boosted all the sensors and stuff on?
Yeah.
It was a shuttle.
Good call.
Yeah, but why not take that?
Because shuttles don't have warp. Well, they do, but they're just very low level warp.
All
If you
you're
wanna
doing is looking for the path, right?
No,
Yeah, but the
we,
energy signature dissipates over time.
exactly.
So
You want to be
that's...
able to have something in pace to keep up with the trail. Yeah. So if we say we take the Carpathia, and it's I mean, I've got some really decent sensor skills, and was the one who studied the bomb. So presumably that's me on the scanners, and
Okay.
they're just to volunteer to pilot it.
Yeah.
Is that the whole team?
So are we talking Natala on sensors and what? Keval, Thazanan on piloting?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
just for reference, a shuttlecraft can do a maximum of warp 3. A runabout can do warp 5.
Just let's park you guys there so we know who's on that runabout for the time being. Everybody else can be assumed to be still on the Navis quite safely. So, right. Yes, the captain and the first officer are totally on board with that idea, sending a runabout first so that you don't lose the trail. So, yeah, let's see. So, yeah, while the chief engineer is going to be busy trying to fix the engines to stop power from being disabled. Now, sadly, power is going to go because you're going to need to divert power to the shuttle bay doors and the shuttle bay force field. So that means that point of power goes faster than it otherwise would have.
Nah, you could just blow. You could just blow the seals.
We just fly out through the engineering deck. It's fine. It's almost empty anyway.
No, it's fine. I'm already planning to use the remaining runabout as a battery, so we'll figure something out.
Okay, so in order to save power, you're basically going to evacuate the entire shuttle deck and release the docking clamps on the Carpathia and just let it just get sucked into space. Actually, it could probably go out under its own power, actually, now that I think of it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be less of a guided and more of a impromptu. Keval's an awesome pilot. I'm sure he can manage.
Easy peasy.
I'm just contemplating whether Andrews would recommend that she goes with them as well in case they do get involved into a firefight.
Up to you. There's space on a runabout. Or do you want to be present to question Dr. Jibran if he wakes up?
Andrews isn't the best at conversing with people, but
Okay.
interrogation-wise. But yeah, cheaper security. I might recommend a Bravo goes with them then. Send Tactical Bravo.
Tactical Bravo is the we have a Bravo in. Hang on a second.
Yeah, we do have Tactical Bravo.
Do we have a
Isn't he the
Tactical
one who-
Bravo? Or was it the Security Bravo? Let me
Security
have a
Bravo,
quick
yeah.
look. Just to make absolutely sure. Where's the mess hall? Because we agreed that they were quintuplets. So there's one Bravo in Science, one Bravo in Security, one Bravo Engineer, one in Stellar Cartography, one as Medical. So yes,
Actually,
you don't...
cartography Bravo, isn't that the best one to send? If you're trying to track something.
Well, as John quite rightly pointed out, Natala was the one who had a lot of... She managed to get a look, along with Nova, at the prototypes stats and data whilst you were still on in Dr. Jibren's lab on Takara Prime. So Natala
and
does
Andrew's
make the
concern
most.
is more of a security concern in case we get captured by Klingons or something.
But you can assign as support. We would have to dig out our final support character if we want to finally bring out the tactical officer to go along with the Carpathia. So, do you want to do that?
I've got secondary skills in engineering and security, but obviously if there's some kind of combat situation happening, I don't really think I'd be able to fly and shoot at the same
Well,
time.
what
Or I
would
could,
be,
but
what would
it'd
be
difficult.
the typical targeting skills? What would be,
Well, a
if I was-
tactical, a dedicated tactical officer would have starship weapon systems, starship combat tactics, and the ability to recognize various different starships and their configurations as standard. So, anyone with those kind of foci, would be an ideal tactical officer.
I don't think we've established that there is a tactical Bravo as the
No, we haven't, and we've used all 5 of the Bravos. So, if
No.
this is going to be
so it'll
a
be
new,
person.
this is going to be a brand new person to be the tactical officer.
What's a really interesting kind of character to have as another tactical officer that we don't usually see?
Well, you can always roll randomly on the species table to see who we come up with.
Who's the lizard person we had previously?
It's Saurian.
Oh, Natik.
No,
Why didn't you
that's an
send
insect.
Natik?
Well,
Natik is a
Natik is
security
security. The tactical officer for the Navis is actually the second officer, which is Andrews.
So would this be a protege or a rival of yours, Andrews?
Well, every station on the bridge
Protege.
technically has to have somebody to take over when somebody leaves their station. So you've always got people hanging on.
So do you want to roll a couple of times and then or roll until Webby's happy with it?
Yeah, I'll roll one. If you're happy then, yeah, let's
So,
go.
rollable tables, life path table, next generation series,
Where's the
era,
rollable tables?
species.
Where's the rollable table?
So, to the right of journal entries is the rollable
Where's the
tables.
rollable table?
Under
Life path
the
tables, there we
life
go.
path, species, next generation. Let's see what we get.
What can we have?
And this will be using the very last number of supporting characters for the crew. Wow.
Unless some die off, right?
Unless some die off, indeed. So we've got a Bolian.
Okay.
Let me get ready to search memory alpha.
So, Natala, are you feeling blue?
So, Bolians, let me see. Bolian. In as far as this game, have got bonuses in control, insight, and presence. So, yeah. Bolians are well known for their hospitality and outgoing personalities. The cartilaginous ridge across their head and their blue skin. Oh, it also bears mentioning that Bolians and Andorians have compatible blood, so they can.
In the event that this ship goes down.
Yeah.
One
just
of them
realised I
likes things
posted-
spicy, the other likes it boiling hot.
Posted the wrong warp reference. That's TOS.
Still.
So, do we want a Bolian tactical officer?
Yeah, folks.
All right then. Let me find a nice picture of a Bolian. That's the guy from Voyager. That guy looks like he's having problems on the toilet. We ideally want someone in the. Do we want? Are they going to be in red or are they going to be in yellow?
Red.
They could be
red
in
tent.
yellow, but they'll normally be in red.
Right, I will go with this guy as an image taken from Star Trek Online. Please don't sue me. But we'll keep having a look. Let's see, that's the girl. That guy is wearing a red shirt, but he's terribly over blue.
Yeah, for reference, warp 3 is 38 times the speed of, well, pretty much 39 times the speed of light, whereas
Actually,
warp
that looks
5
like
is
a figure.
213 times the speed of light.
There we are,
Love
we'll use this one.
logarithmic scales.
Right, so if y'all give me just a moment, I'm going to use my image software to quickly scale that image that I just found down so that it'll be easier to make. So let's see, 147 by 161. Let's make that 147 by 147. Okay. Copy, paste. So this one looks like a, well, it could be either male or female, but the image I've got it from is a female Bolian, so
yeah, Andrew's a sexist and only employs females to her.
So if you want to find a Bolian female name while I'm busy pulling in this image that you like, because there are numerous Star Trek name generators out there you can use. Right then, let me close that and go back. So I am going to bring in our new crew member. Let me bring it on the bridge. Let me throw us back to the bridge for now. What was that? Direxia Auradas. Do we like that name?
Nice and complicated for Bolian.
I'll never remember it's better than what you do.
Well, I can post the. I'll post the ones that it generated the first time. Then that's the one that I saw. It was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. There we go. That's what the name generator came up with for the first 10. So, if anyone else wants any of the others, pick any of the others. Not me.
Oh, that is the best one of those ones.
Yeah.
Ones that gave me with these.
Oh, definitely not the hag.
Hi, dear hag. Ensign hag.
I ended up on the page for Starbase 118 for Bolians, and it went, their names are usually monosyllabic and end in double consonants. It's like, oh, what?
Usually, but not always. Let me see then. So that's a Bolian. Bolians get a boost to control insight presence. So let's do that. Control goes up by 1. Insight goes up by 1. Presence goes up by 1. There we are. Let me give you guys control over. You should have control over it anyway, but I'm going to make absolutely sure. Where's she gone? Direxia. Yeah, you all have control over Direxia. And let me bring her in. Okay, so
Oh.
traits, Bolian, species.
An image of the
Bolian.
toy.
That's a toy, yeah. That's an action figure. Please don't sue me. But she has focuses in Starship Weapons Systems, Starship Combat Tactics, and Starship Recognition. So, has got the focuses specific to a tactical officer. Do we want to rank to be ensign or lieutenant, or what do we think?
Got quite a lot of senior officers.
Yeah, go with ensign. Yeah.
Yeah, go.
Ensign. Alrighty. Okie dokes. So, copying Direxia, we go back to space! So we're putting Direxia as the tactical officer on board the Carpathia. Are we?
I believe that is the plan.
Yep.
Cool. Right. Let me just activate space and bring Direxia over. There she is. Everyone else is on the Navis. Wicked. Okay. So the Carpathia can launch with expert pilot, expert tactical officer, and of course the head of science. So the Carpathia has to find a trail to look for first before it warps out. So let me see what would be the best way to get that. Okay. Somebody then can give me a reason plus con check with a difficulty of 2, aided by the Carpathia's sensors and science. So
if I did it, I would get the benefit, even though my con isn't the best, I would get the benefit of my sensor operations and technical expertise.
And Jan, you could do the Carpathia aiding that if you wanted to.
Sensors and science, or sensors on for Carpathia.
Let's go with science because you're trying to track the signal. Any signal you can get to let you know where the Klingons have bombed off to.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 2 successes already that Natala has got. So anything that the Carpathia provides is
And the
gravy.
Carpathia can re-roll a failure if you want to.
Yep, if you want to re-roll that, you can re-roll that.
Yeah, that is a failure. Slow.
So you already got what you needed to succeed. But, oh, there we go. You gained 1 extra, which means you're up to maximum momentum.
Yeah.
Cool beans. So, you think you've detected an energy trail that was more than an ion trail, more than likely left by the Klingons' engines. Now, they were Burrell-class birds of prey, and they were carrying house sigils that suggested they belonged to House Duras. Those nasty pieces of work. But the birds of prey themselves were not exactly recent models, so they are emitting enough energy that even at cloak they should give you something.
Yeah, but if we get a little closer, I think I can narrow
You've
down
got something, yes.
using the energy from the bomb itself. But for now, the far easier thing to track will be this ion trail.
Alrighty. So you've now got the start of something to seek out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce another extended task, which is track the torpedo. Meanwhile, can I get, or can I assume that Chief Engineer Kano Vibers is going to be working at repairing the ship?
Yep. I've got a worker bee, and I'm assuming we've got a worker bee on.
Yep, you've got 2 worker bees. Let me just check. The Navis has got 4 worker bees.
So I have worker bees, and we have a replicator. So
for now, you
plus a
have
power
replicators.
plant.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a replicator and a power plant in the runabout at worst. So let's see what we can do.
Yeah, that's fine. Strip the Californian for parts. Nobody likes a Californian.
No, I'm not stripping it for parts. I'm plugging it in as a spare power core.
Strip it for parts. You need the war core.
So,
Yeah, I need
Look at it for power. We now have 3 cores.
well,
And we're still leaking.
So, you're using worker bees, which will allow you to work on the outside as well as the inside interior damage. As Chief Engineer, you have the advantage of basically a crew of engineers. which will assist. So the difficulty to repair the engines as they are currently damaged is going to be a 3.
Okay, so
Now you're going to get no help from the ship because it's the ship that's being repaired. But
Nova will surely be able to help.
Nova, yeah,
well.
definitely.
Just-
So, because I've got the worker bees and because I've got the engineering crew, what's that do to change my dice I can roll?
Doodly doodly doo. I will say.
There you go. Yeah, Nova's got the ability of I know my ship.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's determined the source of a
that'd be an
technical problem
assist
with your ship.
since
You add 1 bonus d20.
So both Nova and Vibers can both add a bonus d20. So
does that bump it to 3?
yeah, so Vibers can roll 3, and Nova, even though she's assisting, can add 2.
And I get a focus because of something on my list.
I've got the
Yeah.
focus of inner workings.
Okay. Right, so I'll roll for this one. Can Nova handle the coordinate me and the other team when we're looking at both nacelles? Oh dear.
What can the matter be? Oh dear, you rolled a 20.
Can you?
Now-
It might be worthwhile spending 1 momentum to re-roll that 20. Just the 20.
Well, hang on. Let's first see if anybody has got anything that can allow you a free roll. So, joined does not seem to do that. Technical expertise. Whenever you attempt a task assisted by the ship's computers or sensors, you are not. Intense scrutiny is for extended tasks. Starship expert. Whenever you succeed at a con task, which you aren't doing, so you can't do any of those. So, unless Nova has got something that allows you to re-roll a d20 for free, then it's going to be, yes, a momentum spend to re-roll that 120.
I think spend it.
Now, bearing in mind, I said that the difficulty to repair the damage to the engines to make it from damaged to workable is difficulty 3. You've already achieved 3 successes, so spending a momentum, you would then gain it back anyway.
Yeah, we technically got 4, so I think spend it.
Okay, so
Theory as well. I can spend the momentum if we succeed to give us a point of power back.
ooh, that
So
will
I've
be
got
useful.
a little more power, so whenever you succeed at an engineering task above your own ship, you may spend 1 momentum to regain 1 spent power.
Everyone all right with that?
Okay, so we're spending 2 momentum, 1 to gain a power back and 1 to re-roll that 20.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds good to
Okay,
me.
so I will put that point of power back, and somebody can do reroll results, but just 1. You get an extra success, which means that you gain
was
that
my
extra
bit.
momentum back.
Yay! Net 0!
Bing bang a boom. So, working for some time, yes, the damage report for engines damaged has now gone away. You are no longer losing power. The engines are able to operate at full capacity without penalty or without added difficulty once again. That took you some time to do, however, so...
And this is why we have worker bees on board.
Exactly. So that all contributed very well. That was a well-oiled machine that came into operation there. Now, Gareth, whilst this was going on, was there anything you were looking to do in regards to Dr. Jabren, now that you have an idea that he's probably gone into a self-inflicted stasis?
Well, the first thing I obviously do is make sure the captain is informed of
Yep.
the discovery.
Now, I do remember you saying that you were using a force field to keep him still and contained, so he can't get up.
Yeah, and we had basically stripped him naked to make sure he didn't have anything hidden on him.
Yep.
Because there is still the suspicion that when he slipped out, he might have done something to fuck up the power. And I'm a Starfleet officer, I shouldn't use words like that, I apologise. So the next thing is to, I believe what you said last week was, it's not like he's aware of what's going on. It's something he'll have to gradually recover from.
Yes, he can only come out of stasis slowly.
Yeah.
I thought could you not force him out of it?
It's possible now that you know what you're working with.
Yeah. Possible, but I think first of all, I want to make sure that he's not got anything hidden inside his body, like, you know, some sort of dead man switch or
it's a
anything
bomb.
like that. Well, I believe we have occasionally come across species who can do things like electroshocks, either delivered through the flesh or through like a short radius. And my first priority is to make sure that the ship is not further damaged by him.
Cool.
So
what we can do in that case then is, if you want to give me a... let me think. Reason plus medicine, and you can use your xenobiology focus. This can now be aided by the ship. So somebody who hasn't had a go at doing anything yet. Everyone's had a chance of doing something, haven't they?
I think so.
Webby, have you had a chance to do anything yet?
Yeah. I rolled direct shift.
Right, so...
I'm happy to let Jan roll, because he's not done much. He's not done that.
Jan, if you can take charge of the Navis then to assist in the good doctor's analysis of Dr. Jibren, it'll be senses plus medicine.
Sensors and medicine.
Yep, indeedly do.
anyone mind if I use a point of momentum on that?
You're probably going to want to anyway, because you only got one success there.
Yeah.
So, is everyone alright with him using momentum?
Yeah.
Might as well. We got the rest of it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, use it.
Alright then.
So reroll results.
You can reroll them all, or you can keep that you can keep that 17.
Yeah.
And just reroll the 20.
Okie dokie.
So when it asks you for how many dice, just roll one dice rather than
just roll one.
Remember to tag that you're using your focus.
Yep.
Ooh, wow!
3 successes!
So you get that momentum back. Wait. Yeah, so using the biobed and the medical scanners, the very sophisticated medical scanners on the Navis, you do a very thorough scan of Dr. Jibren's physiology.
Yep.
Now, as weird, and I use that in a relativistic term, as uncommon, let's put it that way, as Takaran physiology appears to be, you reckon you've now got a handle on it. The organs, or at least the organ functions, are all dispersed throughout the body. As such, there's not exactly room for any specialist operations in the body, like, I don't know, growing spines or poison glands or some kind of electrocharge gland. The fact that Takaran physiology seems to specialize around this spreading out of all the functions of the body throughout the body, which therefore makes it able to carry on irrespective of significant damage to the body. There's no room left for anything that could, be used to launch an attack. So you've got him pretty much dead to rights. And with that detailed scan, you could even come up from the method of bringing him out of stasis.
Yeah, sounds like his species has got a more efficient version of what the Klingon physiology aspires to.
Yeah, so Klingons
just have loads of
backups.
backups.
Yeah, so Klingons have backup organs, whereas Takarans have spread the operation across the body. So there's like a mini lung there, a mini lung there, a mini lung there, spread all across the place. Same for all the other organs. Whereas, a Klingon's got a heart and a backup heart, but you can always take out the backup heart as well. Whereas with a Takaran, you'd have to aim in several spots to take out every heart there was. So, yeah, it's very odd. One thing you did discover, he did have a data pad on him, which is the only other thing besides his clothes that he had on him.
Yeah.
And when you went through his belongings to try and make sure he didn't have a weapon or anything else that you could use, you noticed that the data pad was still active.
Was it essentially unlocked?
Yes. And apparently, there was a program active that he's just left there on screen.
Okay. What does the screen say the program is?
It appears to be some kind of interface with the Navis computer system.
What a jerk. Okie dokie. What I'm going to... Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I see. What I'm going to do is prepare a method to wake him up with the information I've got, and update the captain. So obviously I know that there's other stuff going on as well. So I want to give the captain a choice to either have him woke up as soon as possible, or let him stay in stasis as he is at the moment until the captain or whoever she chooses to do it is ready to interrogate him. At the same time, I'll also update the captain about the data pad and what it seemed to be doing.
Okay. So, I'm
if
going
there's
to
someone available, I'd like to request that someone who has more knowledge than I do of basically data and interface operations might want to take a look at it to make sure that it's not still doing anything.
That would probably be Nova then in that case.
Yeah, because if he's put something in, I might accidentally trip and make things worse. That's not my expertise. I think someone who has better skills than me on that should be the one to go through the data pad.
Okay. Everyone would love to go through somebody's private data pad.
Well, now I'm gonna feel free to what's the word I'm looking for? Not naysay, but feel free to countermand me. But my initial instinct with the captain would be to send Commander Linares, the first officer, and Lieutenant Nova down to sickbay so that Linares can conduct the interview, in quotes, with Dr. Jibren, since he's the more talky orientated, and Nova, being the scientist and also an empath, would be an asset to that interrogation. At the same time, now that engineering has informed the captain that engines are back up, the captain would very much like to get underway to catch up with the Carpathia.
The only thing that I would say is that it would potentially be Andrews would be in attendance as well, as chief of security.
Okay.
But if the rest of the group's happy that Linares actually conducts the interview, and then that is pretty much going to be Matt talking to himself.
Well, again, the first officer is your character as well, the party's character. So, you guys can come up with what he wants to ask, and I will then assume he asked it, and then I'll come back with the answer as far as Dr. Jibren is concerned. So, let me just copy Nova and Commander Linares to sickbay. I'm not going to move them, I'm just going to outright copy them so there's duplicates on the ship. Oh, Andrews wanted to be there too, didn't she? So,
Last thing we need is 2 Novas. Outbreak of Nova.
Supernova.
Nice. Commander Vibers can probably feel confident about coming back to the bridge to monitor engineering using the engineering station on the bridge.
Yep.
So I have moved Vibers to the bridge, but let me see. So that can happen in a little bit. Oh yeah, it was Andrews. I was going to copy Andrews to sickbay. That was it. So let me just put that there so that Andrews is there in sickbay too. But meanwhile, we've got Natala and Keval Vazanan attempting to locate the path of the Klingons. So, let me see. So, let me see. we're probably going to want... the first task I'm probably going to ask for... Actually, the first task I'm actually going to ask for is going to be from Natala to get a better reading of the sensor trail. So if I can ask Natala to give me a... Control plus security, but it is going to use your sensor operations focus. This will be aided by the Carpathia's sensors and security, which Jan can do the do for. To see if you can get hold of a signature that you can follow. This is going to be a difficulty... I've already noticed something, so I'm going to make it a difficulty 1. It's actually a the first one's going to be actually a difficulty 4.
I'm going to need to take a reroll from mine already. So
have you got a free reroll you want to use?
I've got a free reroll I want to use, which I'm going to do now.
Okay.
No. Okay, so beyond that, we've only got 1 success so far. What do people want to do?
So, do people want... are people alright with Natala using a point of momentum, or... We can just... Because it's... this is like the first turn, as it were, on this extended task of trying to track the torpedo. So, it's got a work track of 12, so it's a fairly major task, but as soon as you hit the 12 you'll gain an automatic breakthrough, of which you need 4 breakthroughs to complete the task, and every time you get a breakthrough the difficulty of the job will be brought down. So this could just be a trying to get a hold of a strange power signature, which you've only got traces of, so you can still follow it, but you haven't quite locked onto it yet.
I could reasonably spend, I think maybe the first step to discovery is the theoretical value to determination down on it as well.
If you want to. It's entirely up to you if you want to throw in a determination.
We've been quite lucky with momentum so far, so we do have it to spend.
Yeah.
We may as well.
What do people think?
Yeah, I
We're
think
at maximum momentum, there's no reason not to.
So maybe we spend 2 momentum for basically an extra 2 dice on my roll.
Yeah.
it'll be three momentum for 2 dice.
Yeah. It doubles up. So you can spend 1 momentum to re-roll your results. And you could then... I mean, Jan could then spend an extra momentum to re-roll the Carpathia's results, which would be a somewhat cheaper means of going at it.
The Carpathia is not very good. I mean, Basnan is probably better than the Carpathia, looking at the stats.
Well, if you maybe in that case, on the... Maybe we'll do this turn that, leave it at that.
You need to be splitting your attention between that and the piloting.
Well, at the moment, he doesn't have much of a trail to follow. So the autopilot can pretty much, or he could just be cruising along easily enough. So that's the first step. So we can now just jump onto the second step, and this time you can apply your You can apply your determination, and you can have Keval aid as well as use the Carpathia. So, Shaun, maybe if you take over as the Carpathia for this one.
Okay.
So what does the determination give me again?
Well, give me just a sec. Shaun, it should already have it, sensors and security. Determination will use up one of your determination points, and it essentially buys you a dice with a 1 already rolled.
Okay.
So when you go to make your task, there should be a checkbox for using determination.
Right.
And for Keval assisting, would that also be control and...
We'll keep it as
Control
security
science.
for this one.
Control security.
None of your foci really apply here, but we've got no successes from the Carpathia, but 3 successes from Natala, 1 success which matches the difficulty
And
of 4.
throw in the technical expertise reroll on my 17.
Alright, if you want to re-roll the 17, that's fine. You get an extra success. So, you got 1, 2, 3, 5 successes, which was over and above the magnitude, which means you automatically get a breakthrough, which brings the difficulty of the next task down. And that was your second turn. So that was a lot better. So what you essentially did there was you applied all your logical reasoning, all your knowledge of science and sensors, and you've managed to locate some wild energy fluctuations. Which could very well be from the cloaked vessel holding the prototype quantum torpedo. So, with all that determination, yeah, you've found a very odd quantum signature which doesn't match anything before, but does bear resemblance to the energy output that was expected of the prototype quantum torpedo, according to the what's the
Models.
The computer models, yeah, that will run. So you reckon you've found an energy wake that you can follow. So that was a magnificent success. Well done. So, track number 3. I'm gonna give you this one in a similar vein to the last one in order to try and get a better hold on the trail that you're following. So this is still going to be control plus security from everybody involved, including their usual focuses if they have any. So this time, Gareth, you can take control of the Carpathia.
Okay.
This will be difficulty 3. So we've already got no successes there on Natala, but Natala can re-roll. There's 1 there from Keval. So you've got 2 successes so far.
Security.
Still sensors and security for the Carpathia, so let's see if the Carpathia can give us a success. No. So, do we want to leave it at that, or does somebody want to spend 1 momentum to re-roll one of those results? Go on.
I think it's, if we're so close, we might just well, I think spend the momentum just to get the extra 1.
I think possibly if you re-roll a dice, and then if that doesn't work, I'll re-roll a dice, and if that doesn't work, Carpathia re-rolls a dice, just to get that.
Well, I've already got 1 success, so I think it's up to you or Carpathia, and Carpathia is not that great.
I'll go first.
Okay.
So basically, I only re-roll 1 dice on this one then now.
Okay, so assuming you're going to re-roll the 19, so you now got 3 successes, which is enough to succeed at this particular job. So that's another breakthrough. And that's another lowering of the difficulty. And that's 3 on the work track. So, yeah, you've narrowed down the energy signature now. You reckon you've definitely got a trail, and it's showing up on sensors now that you've keyed them in to locating this trail. The quantum signature is a little different. Like I said, it's a bit wilder. It's fluctuating a lot more. So even though the quantum signature of the energy is very similar, in fact spot on, to the quantum torpedo, there are a lot of other random fluctuations going on. So something's wrong. Something's off.
The Klingons did use a transporter on the torpedo, which was not a good idea.
Yes, and what did the Klingons do?
Straight up did it.
Righty-ho. So that was a good one. So now I'm going to shift the focus of the next task. The next task is going to be using astronavigation to try and determine where the Klingons might be going based upon where this trail is leading. So this is gonna be, let me see, it's gonna be Keval's bag, this one. So definitely gonna be him doing this. So let me think. This is not gonna be control, this is gonna be more like insight or reason. I'm gonna go with reason and con for Keval, with his focus in astronavigation. The ship, the Carpathia can definitely aid using, let's see, sensors and science. So Webby, you can do the Carpathia since you haven't done that yet. This will be difficulty 2. So I don't know if Natala wants to get in on helping with this as well.
I'll absolutely aid with this one.
It'll be similar to... What was that, Jan?
More dice, more better.
More dice, more better. So we'll go with reason and con for Natala as well. But your sensor operations will take part in this as well. Well, holy Moses, look at that. All the successes in the world. Right, so you definitely earn a point of momentum there. 2 difficulty, you actually achieved 5. So that's definitely another breakthrough, which brings the difficulty down at the next task again. Right. You project... Sorry, go on.
I noticed the momentum wasn't at maximum, so we had to do something.
Yeah. Very good at generating all that momentum. Yeah, so Keval, using your knowledge of astronavigation as you are, and assisted by the onboard computer of the Carpathia and by Lieutenant Natala's brains, you project that the Klingons, if the course maintains its heading, they're heading straight for the Romulan border.
We better catch it before then.
So the final breakthrough you need to make will be trying to estimate where they are now, so that you can try and plot a course to get ahead of them when the Navis catches up with the Carpathia.
Out of interest, is the Carpathia picking up the warp signatures of the blah 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 blah?
The Takaran security forces?
Takaran security forces, yes, thank you.
You haven't exactly been looking out for them, but you can definitely you could definitely do that after the task has been completed. I mean,
can we use extra momentum generated from the previous task to...
Yeah. Well, we're at bonus, aren't we? Well, we got 5, so we got 2 over, so we get to ask a question.
If you want to treat it like that, then yeah, ask a question with one of the 3 points. Okay. Where are the Takaran security forces in relation to yourselves, then? I imagine is the question. Okay. Well, am I right there?
Yeah, I think that'd be correct. I think there is a justification for using the talent for 2 questions, if anyone can think of a second one.
Okay, then. Yep, using the talent for 2 questions. So if anyone can basically then narrow down the 2 questions you want to ask me into specifics. So talk it out amongst yourselves, obviously, first, but which 2 questions do you want to ask?
Yeah, I think the location of the Takarans is a strong contender.
Because if they're not following, then this is deliberate.
Yeah.
But we'd also... Can we rule out the idea that they're actually like half an hour behind us because, we were moving at twice the speed that they were, comparing Warp 5 to Warp 3?
Are they only doing Warp 3?
They can do Warp 5.
Okay.
as a maximum. They don't tend to because they are inter-system ships, but the Takaran security forces do have a maximum of warp 5, and I've just given you that for free, so...
So they should have had a eminent lead on us. But, yeah.
They definitely got a lead on the Carpathia, certainly.
Yes,
So that one question is where are the Takaran security forces in relation to yourselves? What was the second question?
Maybe to confirm that the torpedo is still on board the same ship that it was at the start. That the ion trail from the old Klingon ship is still consistent in trajectory with the trail of the bomb.
What do other people think?
I mean, that's a good one. I mean, they could have handed it off, so... Yeah,
Gareth, what do you think?
That's the only other thing I can think of was if they're headed to Romulan space, is there any sign of Romulans coming to meet them halfway or something?
Good point. Shaun, what do you think?
Yeah, I think finding out where they are probably for the best. Just because we've got to find out whether they're actually in cahoots to report that back.
Webby?
I suggested the question, so...
Alright then. So the first question is, where are the Takarans in relation to yourself? And the second question was, is the ion trail of the Klingon ship matching where the energy signature of the quantum torpedo is going? And thereby assuming that the quantum torpedo is still on the Klingon ship that nicked it in the first place. Correct?
Yep.
Groovies. Okay. I can confirm that the Takarans are heading straight for the nearest part of the Romulan border. What would be the closest part of the Romulan border? Romulan neutral zone. They are going straight in that direction.
So whether they were following the trail or not, they were heading straight for the same place.
Yeah. They don't... yeah, they don't seem to necessarily be following the trail, but they are going more or less the same direction, yes. And the second question... Second question was, yeah, the ion trail from the Klingons does currently match the trail you're following from the quantum torpedo's energy, so it does look like the Klingon ship that nicked it has still got it, at a guess. Okay, so now for the final piece of the work track of tracking the torpedo. This is trying to determine where, in relation to the strength of the signal you're currently tracking, an estimate of where the Klingon ship could possibly be now. So this will be... Ooh. Right. Now, I will allow you to do this whichever way you want. You can either make Natala the principal with her sensors utility, or you can make Lieutenant Fazanan the principal because of his knowledge of astronavigation. I will let you guys determine who's going to take the lead on trying to plot where, using the energy trail, where the Klingon ship might very well be presently.
I think Natala's maybe better equipped with potential rerolls. I don't have
but I
anything
can generally use those regardless of whether I'm aiding or not. Because the technical expertise is basically if the ship's sensors are helping, then I can get a reroll either myself or those sensors from the ship.
So we could stick with Keval being the principal because of his astronavigation background.
Mm-hmm.
And Natala aids along with the Carpathian aiding. All good?
Yep.
This has a difficulty of 1. Webby, you can be the Carpathia now. The Carpathian...
Shaun's not rolled for a
Oh,
while.
okay, Shaun then. We'll do Shaun. Shaun can do it.
Okay.
So, again, the Carpathia sensors and science will do nicely.
Yep.
Keval, reason, and con will do with your astronavigation focus. And aiding can be Natala in a similar vein to last time. Reason and on, but with sensors. 1 success, no success, and no success. So you got enough. You know what? We'll re-roll for 1 success. So 2 successes, 1 over. You've got all 4 breakthroughs. You've managed to complete the task. Well ahead of the time that it would have taken anybody else to do. Well done.
Science.
Indeed.
Well, awesome.
You have all the expertise and therefore able to work a lot faster to narrowing down the ship.
Imagine that for each reroll, that's represented on screen by Natala jumping from one console to another.
Okay. So, yeah. Using all you've so far gleaned, you give an estimate as to how far ahead the Klingon ship might be. The Klingon ship hasn't, by your estimates, quite made it to the Romulan neutral zone yet. They're about a good 20 minutes away. Now, the Carpathia won't catch them up before they make it, but you are now getting sensor readings indicating that the Navis is coming up behind you pretty quick. So the Carpathia will be able to dock. Obviously, the Navis has to come out of warp first in order to allow the Carpathia to dock, and then the Navis will have to take off again afterwards. Ludicrous speed, go.
Phases Plan B for barricade.
So while all this is going on, we will move ourselves to sickbay. So let's see, sickbay ambience. All right. So while all that was going on,
sorry, did we ever establish where all of this was happening in the in space?
the encounter with the prototype was already on the edge of Takaran space, so the Carpathia would have left the borders of Takaran space and would have been heading out through mostly unclaimed or unaligned space, as it were, heading towards the Romulan neutral zone. So
I think, given the angle we were discussing before, it's more or less if you draw a line from like Beta Z to Romulus, and we're coming at a bit of an awkward angle.
So yes. Now the advantage here being that the Navis can now hit high warp a lot faster than a runabout, so providing the engines don't fall off and or anything else catastrophic happens to the engines, they should be able to allow you to intercept the Klingons before they get to Romulan space, but you will have a buffer of 10 minutes. So, as far as the Takaran security forces, the Takaran security forces themselves will arrive probably 5 minutes after you intercept them, if they continue on the line
What we
they
really
were
need
at.
to do is make the Klingon ships into a noisy enough incident that the Romulans won't go anywhere near them. Because it's just like, this is a diplomatic incident, pull back is pretty much Romulan typical operations, isn't it?
One assumes, but one can never be absolutely certain with the Romulans. Either way, if we cut now to sickbay, as Webby is moving his router around. Back to sickbay, we've got the first officer and the second officer have come down to sickbay, carting Lieutenant Nova along with them.
Okay.
And we have the chief medical officer now in the process of waking up your guest.
And don't forget Lieutenant Bravo, the security one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
The data pad will be there for Nova to look at.
Okay.
And when they give me the nod, I shall begin the process of waking up Jaren.
Okay. So the first thing that can happen is, Shaun, Nova can have a look at the data pad that Dr. Jabren was carrying, and you can give me a reason plus science check with... I'll let you use your inner workings focus to see what it was that Jabren was up to with this direct interface to the Navis on this data pad. Difficulty 1. Yep, you got it. So yeah, because basically the program is up. It was the last thing obviously used, and in his hurry to get off the bridge, Dr. Jabren forgot to shut down the pad, and therefore it was the last thing used. He appears to have created some kind of pretty basic computer virus, but the way he went about it was pretty sneaky.
Okay.
He used his technical expertise to create a create a timed build-up in the EPS conduits. So it was a minor rerouting of power, and that's what caused the power to go out. Jabren actually threw in a small but cleverly disguised computer virus to try and knock out the ship's power.
I'm going to feed that back to the interrogators, but I'm going to try and make it look like I'm just here as like science, so not the fact that I'm a betazoid and trying to glean his thoughts so that he doesn't become a bit more guarded.
Okie dokie. So, with that in mind...
Perhaps if Nova's actually in sickbay, but not actually directly visible. Like,
well, yeah, Nova...
It's more, I'm just going to sit on this bench and just be like flicking through his data pad, or at least pretending to. So like it looks like that's my focus rather than like watching him.
Okay. I will place Lieutenant Bravo, part of security, near to the door. And yeah, with the first and second officers present, the good doctor can now bring the patient around.
Okay. I will bring him around.
I won't ask for a check because you've already made all the requisite checks. It's far too simple. It's an easy enough thing. So yeah, you stick a hyperspray into his neck so that it can feed to his brain faster, and Jabren's vital signs start increasing fairly quickly, so that he comes out of this stasis within the space of about 3 minutes.
Yeah. Still restrained on the bio bed.
Oh, yes. And as his eyes flicker open, he takes a deep breath in, and he tenses as he obviously tries to get up, and then notices he can't, at which point his eyes and his head kind of dart around, looking rather alarmed at his predicament, and then his eyes fall on you guys. And then his head just kind of slumps backwards. Nova, you're getting the empathic sense of, alarm at first that he was restrained, and then kind of resignation, as it were, that he's trapped and he can't get out.
I'm just going to casually state that I've found an alarm and I'm resigned to the fact of looking for them.
Okay. So, yeah, do you want to... Sorry, what was that, Shaun?
She's very bad at bluffing.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. So, what do you want to ask? What questions do you want to fire at Dr. Jabren? Anybody?
Right, okay, so I think the first one is... I think we need to discuss with him to see how much he knows about the current situation. whether this is a political setup because his people want him, and we're quite happy to hand him over right now for instigating a potential, well, handing a Klingon renegade faction a rogue weapon.
So you're outlining the fact that he's basically in a lot of trouble.
Yes, yeah. And that subtly we can offer to help, but at the same time, we need both sides to be honest with each other.
Okay.
Well, at the same time, we're not actually offering him anything.
All right. So you're insinuating that it would be in his best interests that if he did come clean, and you might be able to help him if he did. Okay. Anybody else got any other ideas for what kind of thing you want to address?
Basically, you could go down the line of the things that clearly spooked him before. So, where did the idea for the bomb originate? Was one of them that made him react. Anyone else remember things that made him internally shaky before when we're questioning him more subtly?
Maybe we could also imply something like asylum.
If we want to put some pressure on him, we can always bring up the fact that in this sector, this stuff is a joint venture between the Starfleet and also the Klingons, and the Klingons may decide to actually want to speak to them and deal with him themselves if they find that he's been involved in giving weapons to a known renegade, essentially terrorist organization who has made plays to take over the Klingon Empire from the rightful rulers. I can't imagine the Klingons will enjoy that.
I mean, unless, of course, he was, in the process of applying for Federation.
Yeah. So again, trying to outline how much trouble he's in with how many people.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, you've made the Klingons mad, you've made the Federation mad, and you've made the Takarans mad. So all in all, you're in a bit of a bad spot, Doc.
We're not angry.
We're just disappointed.
Just very disappointed.
Cause
I think Loss will be playing good cop and Andrews will be playing bad cop as well. So that Loss is kind of going along the disappointed bit, and that potentially
dangling citizenship in front of him, and
and Andrews is going on about the fact that you've handed a weapon to a known terrorist group. Do you know what the repercussions for the entire quadrant are because of your actions?
Okay.
He's just in the background playing neutral cop and just spouting out random lines using the word of his feelings.
Okay. All right then. So during exactly. So during all of this, Nova very much gets the sense of as the how much trouble you're in lines are being fed to him, Jabren does get very anxious, very nervous. It goes up to being scared. It goes up to then being terrified, and then it kind of, in one big rush, it's like all that tension gets released, and it just comes down to, oh, to hell with it. He knows he's in trouble. His will has gone, and he's cracked under pressure. Basically, he knows he's in trouble. He knows he can't escape it. Nova does get the sense that there's a glimmer of hope that sparks in him as soon as the inference of asylum is mentioned, and this kind of worms its way amidst all the despair and the anxiety. It kind of nudges open his compliance, as it were, his capitulation. That's the better word. So it was all worded very well, and it had exactly the desired effect, and Nova can confirm that.
It's mentioned but never promised.
I'll just nod towards Loss, so just to give the impression that his is working slightly better than the bad cup.
And Commander Linares has got diplomacy and composure as focuses, so he'll take those subtle cues from neutral cop. All right then. So eventually, Dr. Jabren just, all right, I'll tell you everything. was taken from the Romulans, but by force. I was given ownership of this project, but not willingly. They didn't tell me where the technology came from. I figured that out myself, and as soon as I did, I was horrified. I used some of my connections in the Takaran hierarchy to make subtle inquiries as to how this technology was actually obtained. It turns out that members of the Takaran security forces staged an attack on a Romulan outpost and stole some of their singularity technology. They then handed it over to science and weapons development, and then assigned myself as one of their lead scientists to create a weapon that they could then sell to the Federation as a means to gain membership. I was horrified at this revelation, that this travesty had to occur so that my people could gain a leg up on negotiations into the Federation. I wanted nothing to do with it, but the security services of the Takaran Ministry are, shall we say, ruthless. They would have had me executed for refusing to comply with this project. And I'm pretty sure that now that I've been discovered as being compliant in the loss of the prototype, they're probably going to kill me if you hand me over to them. My intention was to not have anyone be harmed. I asked for the specifications of your ship so that I could get the Klingons to target your energy systems so that the ship would be disabled without doing any permanent damage to the ship. Then the Klingons could swoop in, take the prototype, and then just fly off into Romulan space and give the Romulans back what had been taken from them by force.
You really are an idiot with galactic politics, aren't you?
Well, I'm not exactly an expert. I'm a scientist, a closeted one at that. I went through the stupid hoops that I thought were the best ones available to me. But I must ask whether or not I would be granted asylum in the Federation. I can hand whatever information I have available on Takaran science and weapons development. The Takarans will have my head, but I can offer you these insights into the Takaran hierarchy.
Oh, Webby wants to say something, but that's not Starfleet protocol. Andrew is really kind of going up, the line of you've just handed basically a high yield bomb to a Klingon renegade faction, and you expect the Federation to welcome you with open arms. But the problem is the Federation will go, yes, he's offered political asylum so that we can learn the information and relay it back for the greater good.
Honestly, there is pretty much precedent for that sort of deal, because there was a thing where a Romulan person wanted to defect in exchange for one specific piece of information, and once there, Picard did seem to actually be going along with it, but was actually pressing for more tactical information on the Romulans. So I don't necessarily think it's a deal the Federation would balk at taking. If anything, given that he's actually specifically offering tactical information about a force who's been trying to manipulate the Federation to get inside them, I think the Federation would be more than happy to offer him asylum in return for that information, especially if he'll also give them proof that they can then confront the Takarans who have been trying to manipulate the Federation into.
There's also the question of how was the coordination with the Klingons managed?
Yeah, who put him in contact with the Klingons?
Yeah.
Who reached out to who?
Well, Dr. Jabral basically answers that the Takarans, being the shady sort that they are, have got shady contacts in shady places. So as much as he didn't like to do it, he reached out to some shady contacts in order to get a line to the Romulans. But the Romulans don't like to do things directly. So the Romulans... well, actually, let me think. Let me just confirm what I'm about to say with my notes. The Romulans themselves are difficult to contact, so Jabren thought the best way of getting this technology back to them was by going through somebody who had contacts in the Romulan Empire, and the shadiest sort that he could manage to make contact with by indirect means was House Duras. He then made contact with the representatives of House Duras and came up with the plan of, you know, the test fire will be going on in this location. There'll only be one Federation ship there. So as long as he had the plans to the Navis, he would direct the Klingons where to hit the Navis to disable them rather than destroy them, and that would allow the Klingons to get away scot-free without taking any fire. Little, of course, did Jabren know that the information that the Klingons got was not the correct information on the Navis's systems. Therefore, the Klingons went for the only thing they knew how to, which was to directly target the engines. And, of course, that resulted in the situation as we find it. Jabren panicked when he saw how able the Navis didn't go down as quickly as was expected to. And the moment the Navis took out that one bird of prey, Jabren panicked and was on his way to basically steal a shuttle to try and get off the ship and rendezvous with the Klingons to escape Takaran space as quickly as possible, and to try and get the Romulans back their technology. Of course, I had no idea it would all spiral out of control so horribly. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. It wasn't the best laid plan, I admit, but I would rather that than have the Federation be given a weapon that had blood on its hands.
I still don't understand why you didn't reach out to the Federation with these concerns rather than reach out to the ROM. It makes no sense.
I guess it might be a case of his communication channels to the Federation were a lot more limited than his communication channels to the Romulans or House Duras.
He nods at this. Any communication off-world with the Federation would have been monitored. I had to go through criminal contacts that I hadn't ever made before in order to get the contact to House Duras. And that was difficult enough as it was. All I can say is I'm sorry for all of this mess. But that's it. That's basically it.
Yeah. I think it might be time that he is escorted to the brig.
Yep. He's willing to be...
And I also, Andrews would recommend that this information is submitted directly to
Really?
Station, Starbase.
Right.
Words.
Narendra,
yeah. To the Narendra Starbase on an encrypted channel, advising them of what the situation now is, and that diplomatic conversations need to happen behind the development of the weapon based on the current situation.
Okay. That's easily enough done. So as soon as... so, hang on. Let me collate my thoughts here. Lieutenant Bravo of Security can escort Dr. Jabren once he's fully clothed to the brig. He offers no resistance whatsoever. He's willing to go to the brig. just as long as somebody promises him, excuse me, that he won't be handed over to the Takarans, because that's a death sentence. They'll probably execute him on the spot as soon as he transports over to a Takaran ship. That allows Commander Linares and Commander Andrews and Lieutenant Nova to all go back to the bridge, which allows us to send a coded message back to the registration so that Admiral Hebert can start trying to smooth negotiations over. However, you are still in transit to intercept the Klingons. So, where
Could
are
we request? Sorry, I'm eating.
I noticed. So you're currently at warp. Let's go. Exceed the warp limit. Yes, well, the captain's very much up for that from the word go. So as soon as the order to go to warp was given, the captain was very much, maximum warp right now. So warp 9, maybe not 9.25 or whatever it is.
Dr. Bertram is going to organise sickbay, both because we're going into combat, but because also there's a singularity weapon, which he knows. I'm going to assume he knows just enough science to know that that's a hideously nasty thing, even if it works perfectly well. And if it goes wrong, who knows what it could do? But it probably spells bad news. So he's basically getting all of his sickbay stuff on high alert.
Yep. Okay. So getting things ready in that regard. So let's bring...
And also say we're travelling at red alert.
Mm-hmm.
So weapons hot.
Okay,
and
so shields
Damage
up.
control
weapons.
teams on standby.
Alrighty.
Are we? Do we overtake the Takaran fleet?
Definitely. So red alert.
While we are traveling, can we get any additional information from the Bren regarding the torpedo that might be useful in case there's an engagement?
Yeah, well, the information, he gave you the specs, you already have all the information on it.
Well, we'll lay out what we expect from the torpedo based on both the information that he gave before and mine and Nova's estimates, and just kind of, this is not a quantum torpedo, this is a singularity weapon, and here's what we think it's going to do, and then just see if he nods along the whole way.
Yeah. Nova and Natala have both had enough experience now with the technical specs of that weapon, and especially now that you've come back with the sensor information you gleaned on the Carpathia in regards to the weird energy emissions that are coming off of it, that if that quantum torpedo detonates, it will, as well as being a singularity implosion, it'll also mess up subspace in the near vicinity.
See, I know he said that this was, he found out it was stolen from Romulans. Is there an indication that they were specific? We know that they use singularity tech for some things. Is there indications they were actually developing weapons using singularities rather than just power sources?
Jabren doesn't know. All Jabren knows is that a tactical team of Takaran security forces was sent into a remote Romulan space station somewhere, and they basically raided the place. Jabren does reiterate that Romulans, everybody on the Romulan station was killed to try and cover up, any notice of who might have done it.
Ooh, lovely.
Now, eventually, the sensor information comes back on Natala's sensors, and well as Keval's Helm noticed that you are approaching the estimated interception point of the Klingon birds of prey, and you get indications that there are 2 ships who have dropped out of warp. You are 10 minutes away from the Romulan neutral zone. So the captain orders for warp speed to be dropped. As you drop out of warp, you see 2 Klingon birds of prey, one of which appears to be listing. The other one still has full power and full weapons. And as it sees the Navis drop out of warp, that Klingon vessel, the full-powered Klingon vessel, comes about and puts itself between the Navis and the apparently disabled Klingon ship.
Is there any way of determining what's going on? Is this a radiation leak killing a bunch of people on board?
Can I have a control plus security task aided by the Navis's sensors plus security to get a read on the situation? This is difficulty 1. It's entirely possible that Nova can aid as well with a sensors type scan. So whoever wants to take charge of the Navis, let's go. Jan, you haven't done anything in a bit. So that's 2 successes, you only needed 1, so you've already gained 1 bonus momentum. Nothing from Nova, but that's fine. You've already exceeded the difficulty. And nothing from the Navis, so...
Well, one of these 2 can re-roll what their dice off my expertise.
Well, it was difficulty 1, you got 2 successes, so you got 1 momentum over and above, so you determine that there's wild energy fluctuations aboard the disabled Klingon ship. Power's out. There are no life signs on that one Klingon ship. You've got 1 extra momentum generator which you can use to ask a free question, but then with Natala's one you can ask 2.
Yeah, are we assuming that the one that is adrift is the one that took the bomb?
I don't think we need a question for that one.
Well, the fact that it's still in pretty good condition, even if a singularity bomb's gone off.
Yeah,
something
I'd have to
go
explode it if it was leaking some sort of weird singularity emission or slow release.
Exactly. We're thinking more emissions, particles, radiation, something in that regard, perhaps. Maybe if we could confirm whether it looks like it's like there's no containment, or maybe if we could confirm whether there's any internal shields or anything of the like left, or is it's not just no life signs, it's also no power.
So question number 1 would be,
as well as there being no life signs aboard, is this basically all containment has failed? No power, no shields, no nothing. Especially, is it electronics as well that's been completely fried?
Okay, and question number 2, the nature of said. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Maybe. Sorry, if maybe question number 2 would be: would EVA suits be sufficient to go on board such a ship?
Jan, what was your question?
I wanted to know if the crew complement of the ship that's not disabled has increased. So, do we know whether the crew of the disabled ship are missing, or have they been beamed across?
Okay, that's a good question, actually. So, one question is power out as well as life signs? Second question was what caused it, basically.
Well, I think we can assume what caused it. I think it's either Jan's one of did they evacuate, or it's my one of could we use do we have safety measures sufficient to board a ship in that state?
Well,
so what do you think?
You can ask the one question, you can ask Jan's question. If you spend a momentum, you can then ask the question of the EVA suits.
Yeah. That's worthwhile, I think, asking 3 questions.
I think so. Yeah.
Everyone else agree? Spending the momentum for the extra question?
Fine by me.
Got the momentum to spend.
Okie dokie. 1 point. Okay, so overall, there are no life signs on the. There's no life signs and no power on the Klingon ship. It looks like the prototype's power source reacted with the Klingon ship's cloaking system, which caused a massive release of tachyon radiation that affected the entire Klingon ship. No one seems to have gotten off that ship. So the other Klingon bird, the active Klingon bird of prey, has got the same crew complement that it normally would.
So it came out of warp, went into cloak, and immediately everyone died. Ow.
That's good to know.
Now, the tachyon radiation is lethal. And as such, EVA suits would probably be required to get on board the Klingon ship, but tachyon radiation would go through the EVA suits. So anybody who got on board the ship would need some kind of inoculant against the tachyon radiation, but even then, it would only last so long. So it's a risky mission to go on board the Klingon bird of prey to retrieve, or to try and safety cap the prototype quantum torpedo. Meanwhile, the other Klingon bird of prey has definitely powered up shields and weapons.
I think let's try not to escalate.
Given that we come in weapons hot.
We came in at weapons hot because we were anticipating a fight, as they were preparing to cross into Romulan space, etc.
Well, they are thieves, and we are confronting them. Do we do the hail and demand?
I think we hail and tell them to stand down and say that this weapon has cost you one of your ships. The second is currently, the second of the fleet is currently disabled. It won't take much for us to disable a third Klingon vessel.
Alrighty. I am going to ask one person to roll for the captain. This is going to be presence plus command with focus of tactician for the captain, aided by the XO, who will probably use daring plus command with a focus of diplomacy, to be the good cop, to basically try and negotiate your terms of surrender. If anybody else thinks they want to jump in and aid this diplomatic situation.
Who's diplomatic in us?
I'm happy to roll in an RS.
No what?
But I haven't got a spare warp core to fire at them.
So someone can take charge of the captain as being the principal. Someone can take charge of Commander Linares aiding the captain. You can have one other person aiding. The ship doesn't really get a clue in at this point. And I am going
Diplomacy-wise, the ship doesn't get a...
No, it doesn't get a say.
The ship's weapons can be used as I think weapons plus security on this, other than the ship. Just be like... Kitty Cat's got claws.
That's called intimidation, where we start to scratch "Do you surrender?" on their hull in 6-foot high letters.
Yeah. Oh, we
out drones.
You just open the torpedo bays wider than they expect.
Yeah. Just keep opening. Oh, we just keep opening all of the torpedo bays. Captain, they've opened 28 torpedo tubes. 29 torpedo tubes. 30 torpedo tubes.
So what happened last time we fired these, right?
This is engineering. We don't have to change every old panel to a torpedo tube.
Just keep opening. Just keep blowing more and more hull panels off. These are all of the torpedo bays.
Well, I rolled for the Klingon captain. Sorry, Jan, go ahead.
Keval can have a side bet on when will the Klingons capitulate. The torpedo bay number 28.
At which point do they give up? Yes. Right, so the Klingon captain, being pretty belligerent about the whole thing, scored 2 successes. The captain...
I'd already rolled Linares.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the former roll of Linares, which was 1 success. The captain got 2 successes, so you got 1 success over what the Klingon captain did, so you gained 1 momentum there, which means you also won that particular point of the social conflict. So, yeah, the Klingons basically capitulate. At which point they drop their shields, and then they activate their cloaking device. And that one just vanishes off.
Honestly,
Leaving
the tachyon radiation, and they all just drop dead.
They just fly straight through it again. Ah, shit.
So
Just see this Klingon vessel just drifting for eternity.
yep, you basically got the disabled Klingon vessel left cast adrift.
Realistically, Andrews would suggest that though the mission is dangerous, we need to secure this weapon before it is before the Takarans arrive, so that
How long do we have for that?
Yeah.
You got about 6 minutes.
Right. What can we grab that's just like practically already made, that's more or less made of containment armor? A torpedo. Let's empty a torpedo and just slam it over the top of this one.
The doctor will, if they're going to do that, will start trying to come up with that inoculant to give us the protection that you mentioned.
Okay, so I'm going to need a reason plus medicine task with a difficulty of 1, and this is drawing solely upon Dr. Bertram's medical knowledge to try and find an inoculant against tachyon, the toxicity of tachyon radiation on biomatter. So,
will something like genetics help with that?
Yep.
Biology. Okay.
If we've only got 6 minutes,
If we got, given the time frame, I'd like to use a point of determination in that case to make sure I don't mess this up.
Someone could shorten the time it takes to get you on board the ship quicker by doing a reason plus science task, or reason plus engineering task to try and reprogram the transporter to get somebody on board the Klingon bird of prey faster. 5 successes. Good lordy do.
I think I'd probably rather roll reason engineering to try and make a casing to put around this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jan, you were going to say something before, weren't you, Jan?
Yeah. Couldn't we just beam a minimal crew on board just to maybe jump the ship somewhere before? Or seeing as we've got a limited amount of time.
Yeah, maybe worthwhile.
So
Just don't put it into cloak. The problem is getting that weapon off of this ship. We need to get that off the vessel.
Okay.
what was your idea?
We're hanging around this area of space is good.
We build. No. I think basically we get it into an armored casing that isn't releasing radiation, and we're more or less fine.
Okay.
I hope.
In which case,
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, you first.
if Andrews and I go and get a torpedo casing ready, Nova's probably a good one to help with Tude with the transporters, getting that sorted.
I think realistically, we get it transported onto our ship, slapped inside this torpedo tube, slapped inside a shuttle.
Right. Well, given how badly it's reacted to things like transporters and things before, I'm not sure that's the best idea. At least, and not until we get it. I think we need to get over there in EVA, put the casing on it first before doing anything like that.
Yeah, EVA suits and shuttle. Take shuttle over.
Yep.
Okay. So, Dr. Bertram has made the world's, or the galaxy's most awesome inoculant. So, using... Yeah. More than likely using...
Yeah, it's an energy dissipator, isn't it? Yes, I love the mossy. Oh my god.
Tachyon eating moss. It's bred specifically tachyon eating moss.
So
it's possible given the energy-eating moss, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, 5 successes was a pretty huge success, and Bertram is good at thinking outside the box and using his botany knowledge to such, and you do have samples of the energy eating moss. So,
and he has a value of balance of science and nature. It's the sort of thing he'd do.
So that all speaks to me that Bertram uses knowledge of natural and artificially made chemical compounds to try and inoculate everybody's bodies, basically, against the radiation. Of course, radiation passes through things, so you'll still get irradiated. But he does come up with the idea of maybe lacing the EVA suits with controlled, for lack of a better word, containers of this energy-eating moss, so that the moss is on the outside of the EVA suits and is the first line of defense at absorbing the tachyon radiation. They'll only be able to absorb so much, and then it'll be the EVA suit that then starts absorbing it, and then the people inside the so he's basically going to be able to use the moss as like a first level. You've got levels of deteriorating defense against the radiation, almost like Peter Davison's Doctor's stick of celery.
Yep. Damn praxis radiation.
Just thinking through for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to recover the torpedo, or do we just need it to not be here?
Good question.
I think we need to recover it as evidence.
And also, having a detonation of anything this nasty, this close to the Romulan border is a bad idea.
All right.
I think they're for research purposes as well, the technology inside it.
And the Klingons will report back to the Romulans that we were here with a torpedo.
Yeah, I think, realistically, this needs to be handed back to the Romulan government,
Interestingly enough, the Klingon bird of prey that decloaked and ran away was not generally heading in the direction of Romulan space.
No. Making them
Right.
scarce.
So,
yes.
the next thing that needs to happen is a shielded casing needs to be made in order to create something that the torpedo can be boxed into that will afford you some level of protection, so that you're not carrying basically a radioactive...
I'm ready to take the lead on this one if somebody else wants to help.
I'll help on that one.
Engineering would be a darned good idea to assist on, so yep.
Reasonable control, I think.
You're going to have to come up with it, and somebody else is going to have to implement it. So somebody...
If I roll reason, you roll control?
Yeah, go on. I'll make it happen. You design it.
Yeah. Quantum mechanics possibility.
Yep.
Safety protocols possibility. I've got a couple of focuses that work for this one.
I'm going to make this difficulty 4 because it's pretty hench and it's experimental technology.
Okay. For making this, can I pull in steady hands as a focus?
Yes, you can, absolutely.
Might need a momentum on this one.
So that's 2 successes.
Do we each grab a momentum on this one and make a reroll
go
each?
for it.
Boink and boink.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Both
is
of
that
you
a
both reroll.
or a- Yeah, right, so reroll 1.
So you've each rerolled one of those dice, presumably the ones that didn't give you successes,
That's getting us to 4.
and that takes you up to 4. All right. It takes some doing, but you're able to modify the casing of one of your quantum torpedoes, because they all, in their even in their inert state, quantum torpedoes need to be placed in a protective containment, mostly so that they remain inert and inactive. But on the off chance that they somehow do get banged and jostled, well, it doesn't bear thinking about. So, yeah. You're able to disassemble a torpedo casing and its container in order to create a on-the-fly prototype to try and give you something that can contain the radiation being emitted by the torpedo.
Okay. So we've got the casing ready to transport over to put it in.
I'm an EVA specialist. If
Yeah, but I think at the same time it would be Andrews would advise that it's very limited that people that go over on this.
I think Nova would volunteer purely just because she's a tinkerer and experimenter, so she can work on the fly.
in terms of people who can install things through, in spite of working with EVA suits, yeah.
So Nova heads over and gets things prepped, and Natala gets sent over with the casing.
Yeah, but then at the same time is that John's just done the torpedo bit, so it's very much he's now doing.
I've just got too many specialties that are appropriate to the situation.
Yeah.
So, what would you like to do?
Diversity-wise, I would probably Andrews has the survival at any cost kind of thing, so she would recommend that she leads the away team across.
That would make sense time-wise, because then you two have sent over while we're still prepping.
Yeah. And then I don't know whether if Fazanan would be the shuttle pilot. Once we get it so it's secured, etc., we can get it secured onto and then steady shuttle coordination. So it'd be Fazanan, Nova, and Andrews going over.
It also bears mentioning that as soon as you get the torpedo contained, you can, if you can get the Klingon Bird of Prey's power systems working again, you can use it to disperse the tachyon radiation out of the ship and into space, so that it harmlessly diffuses.
So do we beam over and Fazanan brings a shuttle and we do that first, like vent as much radiation as possible while he's flying over, and then work on the torpedo once that's ready?
Yeah, I think while they're prepping etc, we'll go over to try and secure and reduce the dosage.
Yeah.
Or probably even Andrews may even do that on her own. And then Nova comes over once it's got vented to a certain point, but Nova's more skilled at science than Andrews, so.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of we would have made it like very, very simple, because we would be Natala's got that EVA experience, and so would know how delicate and how big and clunky it would need to be easily managed in EVA and under difficult conditions. So it's all big, chunky. Just pull this lever here to get them to click.
Put into case. So open top, put in, close lid.
Yeah.
So once again, for my own benefit, Fazanan is going to be Lieutenant Fazanan is going to be on the piloting a shuttle over, so that when the torpedo is acquired, it can be safely stowed in the shuttle rather than beamed anywhere.
Those two are beamed over, followed by we'll beam the case over.
Right.
It's ready.
So Natala.
No,
Nova and Andrews are going over. Natala and Vibers are going to be on the ship, and whilst they're making the casing, Nova and Andrews are going over.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I think Bertram is watching constantly.
Life science.
Jan?
Is anybody more worried about the moss he's just sent over than
Sorry, what was that, Jan?
Is anybody flying back in the shuttle with me, or is this a lone man on a bomb?
Well, they may as well.
I think Nova would fly back with you just to offer scientific support in case of something going wrong.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
you won't be alone.
If we do,
just watching the dials on the side of it.
If we do get the Klingon ship powered up quick enough, I think there may be a plan for it to be set on a course towards the Romulan border, just as the Takaran security force get there?
They show up, they intercept a Klingon ship that's appeared at the rendezvous, and it's a ghost ship.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Everyone happy with that plan?
Yep.
Okay. Right. In that case, come on. Let's go straight to it. So, a modification to the transporter system needed to be made. Or has that already been done?
I don't think we modified the transporters.
Yeah, we're not using the transporters.
Don't you need the transports to get you over there?
Yeah, but barely. Any changes need to be made. That's pretty much standard operation.
Other than the energy-eating moss on the outside of the EVA suit.
So, can I get...
speciality?
Can I get a reason plus... Can I get a reason plus science task then for the transporters? From the...
Jude!
Nova helped by Litude.
Nova help by Litude is fine.
I've got a focus of transporters and replicates.
Oh, there we go then.
Throw that in there.
So Nova can pretty much do it herself. Aided by the ship doing... what's transporters? That's... structure plus science I'm going to go with. So whoever wants to do the ship.
Nova's done this before. Just casually walked into a transport. Screw you, Litude.
One side, boy.
I love it how we all have different spellings for Litude. It is how Gareth spelled it, isn't it? Latude. It's just Webby being dyslexic.
How did we spell it? L-I-C-H-U-D.
We're all getting it. It's not even Litude.
L-I-C-H-U-D.
It's Litude. We're all even pronouncing it wrong.
No, is there an E at the end?
Not as far as I can see.
Okay, so it's it's actually Litude.
And his first name is Richard. Richard Litude.
That's why nobody likes it.
Did you want to roll for the ship? Did you say, Matt?
Yes, please.
Okay. John beat me there.
What's the short form of Richard?
Dick. Dick Litude.
Damn it, Dick.
Damn it, Dick.
Right,
just
so
I can. We've got extra momentum, I think, on that.
good grief, did you?
Can I spend one of the extras into putting more power in so I can rewrite his systems and gain extra?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, because you've got expert in power systems, you're able to draw without having to... You're able to charge it and draw it so it doesn't actually use any power to transport over. That's fine. Shields will have to go down momentarily in order to allow transport over. But that's fine. So, let's get you guys over. So, I don't want our transporter room. I want you to beam over to their transporter room. So,
Have either of you forgot to equip your EVA suits? Not on me.
Remember, trust in the moss will protect you.
There's moss.
Yeah, remember the ancient Terran philosopher Mario. Trust in the fungus.
So, equipment. We need equipment, don't we? Character equipment. Where's the EVA suits? That would be under...
It's not just any EVA suit. This is a moss-infused EVA suit.
Yeah, basically, this is roughly how it looks.
The ghillie suit look. I like it. So both Andrews and Nova now in their armor have armor of EVA suits. You beam into a somewhat deserted Klingon transporter bay. and there's evidence of, I hope you can see that, yep, one dead Klingon near the transporter controls. There isn't the usual familiar hum of the engines. The place is still and silent.
I think it would be a case of we now undertake tachyon scans to work out. Well, I don't know. Do we want to head to the bridge to vent the tachyon radiation, or do we want to head straight to the weapon to try and secure it to vent it directly from the source?
Also, is this a mag boots type situation as well?
Yes. Power is off.
It's off. Does that mean you're less likely to be able to vent it using a Klingon's ship?
Yeah, so we've got to go to the source.
Yeah, you'd have to bring the power back online. Yep.
I mean, we could try to go to engineering and get power, but I think that's out of our way.
Yeah, I think it's going to take us too long
Yeah.
to try and get power back online in the time period we have. Yeah. So Andrews would suggest that tricorders are out.
Yeah.
Okay, tricorders. So this will be a control plus science check for both Nova and Andrews. Nova could probably head this, aided by Andrews. Nova, let me see. Transporters and replicators, not really.
Sing for that one.
Oh my god, he got success.
Focus for that.
Don't need it.
3 successes! So yeah, you're definitely getting strong tachyon emissions coming from what would seem to be the cargo bay. So you've got a good idea of the direction to go. So, yeah. You manage to crank open the door, but you have to do that by hand, and you find yourselves in an outside area. And let's get you to the cargo bay. Now, you have to use the Klingon equivalent of Jeffrey's tubes and ladders to get anywhere, but thankfully a Klingon bird of prey is actually quite a small ship, so there aren't that many places to go.
Klingons also don't actually believe in blast doors.
I mean, the first time I used my infiltration focus.
Yeah, so you eventually find your way to here. Now, the first thing you notice is as Nova and Andrews make their way slowly, ploddingly, to the cargo bay, is the moss has shriveled. And yes, stomp, stomp, stomp. You're beginning.
When Dr. Bertram sheds a tear.
Nova and Andrews are both beginning to feel tingling in their extremities.
Yay!
Yeah.
Double radiation exposure.
Happy feelings.
I'd like to point out that only 3 of my extremities feel this.
Yes, quite. The bionic one is just you're feeling the tingle in the joint where your natural shoulder meets the bionics. As such, you're occasionally losing input sense, that there's any kind of inputs between the limb and your nervous system. But you make it to the cargo bay.
Radiation levels are
pretty strong in
elevated.
here.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I assume that we're still in open contact with Bertram, so at the point where the radiation starts to get hazardous to health, we're notified.
Yes, but at the same time, the sheer amount of tachyon radiation in this area is interfering with comms, so it's kind of crackly. As such, any biological data that the Doctor has on you that's being reported back through your EVA suits is starting to show signs of interference, which in its own way is not good.
Okay, I recommend that we would do a 2-minute initial inspection, head back out to the door area to allow Bertram to assess exposure rates, which would then give us a maximum biological machine interface with the radiation before it becomes lethal or starts to become detrimental to health.
I'm assuming probably you hear something like radiate, expose,
ready
tachyon, moth.
Yep.
But given what I'm getting, Bertram is going to start, as well as monitoring, he's going to start arranging to have radiation recovery medicine prepared when the two get back.
Yep. Since you've got quite the sophisticated sickbay, you have got quarantine control over sections of the sickbay deck, especially. But
I'll set up an area that hopefully when they're back, we can maybe transport them directly into the quarantined area so they can immediately begin treatment without any sort of radiation that they might sort of carry with them.
Yep, cool. Andrews and Nova get an indication that the container made by Natala and Vipers is ready for transport over. And they're going to use your comm badge signals to get a better idea as to where it can be. Were you deliberately fading in and out there?
Yes.
Well done.
Right, so if Nova wants to stand there, we can at least do a 2-point triangulation for beam point.
Fine.
Yeah.
So, seeing as I don't have...
Somewhere around
Yeah. And then eventually Andrews will kind of move across. So Andrews will be walking backwards and forwards between those 2 points to give a triangulation position on comm signal.
You eventually get a transporter signal come through, and a nice big secure casing is transported in. It almost fizzles out, but the modifications that Nova put into the transporter system boosted the gain enough that it just needed a bit of extra time to transport it over. But you've now got the casing. And it's around about this time that Lieutenant Thazanan departs the ship in the shuttle, so he is gaining on the derelict ship, and he can probably get within transport range.
If we're in the cargo
or rather,
bay,
unloading, he could get within range of the
if we're in the
cargo
bay. Can we force open the cargo doors?
Sure. There's no atmosphere at the moment. There's certainly
So I
no
think
power and no life. So
once this torpedo is secured, is that we'll open the cargo doors and effectively just walk it out with the EVA suit.
Cool.
Into space.
Let's see if I've got anything nice for that. Not really. Okay, so with no problems whatsoever, you're able to carefully, very, very carefully. In fact, can I get Nova and Andrews to both give me control plus con checks to see if they can keep the trembling in their limbs from under control enough that they can get the torpedo into the containment.
Can I roll first and then use my talent to follow my lead?
Sure.
Yeah.
Only difficulty 1. One success. Awesome. You manage it. So let's see if Nova does the same. 2 successes. Brilliant. Steady hands, the two of you.
She's used to playing her own dangerous.
Yeah. Andrew's twitch has redeveloped back in her shoulder.
So that was the main reason I asked for that. But yeah, you may remain in control, and you managed to get the torpedo into its casing, and it is clicked shut, and the green light for contained blinks on. You're now able to vent the whole space and open the cargo bay doors so that Keval can put the shuttle in range to have the payload delivered. In the meantime,
ideally the shuttle. I get the shuttle as close to the cargo bay door as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, as they can't power the ship up, we could reasonably shunt it to something approximating half impulse and just kind of push it along its way.
What do you want to do about all the tachyon radiation that's in the ship?
At this stage, I mean,
Nothing.
it's going to do
Leave it.
dissipating it anyway, but we can more or less leave it.
Okie dokie day. So, I am going to ask for... Let me think. Let's put us back to space a minute.
This works better when I'm not muted. So, we could actually use the tractor beam to catapult it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
The laws of motion. Every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. If we shunt the ship, there's nothing to stop it from slowing down.
It'll probably be rolling slightly, kind of tumbling a bit, but it'll be going the way we want it to go at the speed we want it to go.
All right then. So, Andrews and Nova will board the shuttle. Now,
Well, I assume that Faznan is also wearing an EVA suit.
yes, I assume as well.
It just pulls up next to them, winds the window of the shutter down, and goes, "Right, bitches."
This is so basic a thing for Keval's. I'm not even going to bother asking for any attempt to pilot it. Keval Faznan's far too good a pilot to mess this up. Floaty spacewalkies. We indeed, yes. So the only thing that needs to be done, I suppose, is to see if you can adequately get the tractor beam to do anything with. So I'm going to ask for Keval to give me a control plus engineering test aided by the shuttle's structure plus engineering to just basic difficulty 1 to give the bird of prey a bit of a nudge using the shuttle's tractor beam. Everybody got that, or do I need to? No, you got that. 2 successes, easy. 1 over and above what you need. Awesome. So you start to gently
There you
nudge.
go, 69.
He gave the bird of prey is given a gentle kind of pull so that it starts to slowly, languidly move in the direction of Romulan space. So the excuse me for rubbing my nose. The shuttle then comes about and starts heading back towards the Navis. Of course, as soon as it enters into the shuttle bay, the occupants, or at least 2 of the occupants, are immediately whisked off by Dr. Bertram and his staff in order to go to radiation decontamination protocols. But now the prototype weapon is on board the ship.
Okay.
And it's at that point... Sorry, Davis, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, at this point, if nothing else is about to happen, it might be an idea for me and Natalia to corner our friend in the brig and get instructions on how this thing should be saved.
I'm not sure he's any better of an expert on it than we are at this point.
Oh, fair enough.
I would probably recommend that they actually go about shielding.
Yeah.
Deflecting.
Compartment.
It's basically putting the entire shuttle bay so that the deflector is bouncing the tachyon radiation from within there that's coming off back around the rest of the ship.
And just kind of recycling it and just dispersing it wherever we can.
Yeah, to make it so that it's less obvious that we have the weapon on board the ship.
Well, you're so 3 of you are basically going through decontamination and are being whisked off to the sickbay. As you're in the turbo lift, being taken to decontamination, that is when you hear the red alert klaxon.
The ship is mourning my loss.
It's less that. And that's then that the captain asks for all senior staff to come to the bridge, those that are able. Because...
I think even in this situation, yeah, Andrews and Nova would probably advise that they can...
And I barely touched it, so I'm alright.
Everyone who...
Bravo, you're on contamination duty. Don't let this thing irradiate the ship. If you need it, yell.
Okay. It's then that a trio of Romulan warbirds decloaks. And just at the same time... actually, there's less of them because one of them was busy elsewhere. At the same time, the sensors indicate that a quintet of other ships, the Takaran security vessels, are arriving at the same point. And
such a party and I'm missing it.
Yeah.
Indeed. The bridge receives notification that the Romulans are hailing.
I think the captain would be obliged.
Yeah, I believe he would certainly respond.
Yeah, would certainly respond, especially
with some confidence and candour.
Yeah, what?
Oh yeah, she just waits for a little bit, you know, like Picard does. Just sits there.
Casually checking a watch that's not on her wrist.
Are we actually? Where are we? We in Federation?
You're currently
actually...
in neutral space.
Oh, we actually crossed into the neutral zone, have we?
Yeah.
Ah,
You
that's
haven't
fine,
crossed
'cause
over the neutral zone.
Yeah, if they'd have crossed into they'd have crossed over into the Federation space, oh, that's it. Red alert, weapons up.
This is not the neutral zone with capital letters. This is a neutral zone.
With little n. Okay.
So, the view screen comes on, and a very... You haven't seen it very often, because your experience with Romulans is usually them being smug, superior, and... what's the word I'm looking for? Subterfuge is what Romulans are all about. This guy is wearing his anger on his face very clearly.
This is Sub-Commander Boris of the Romulan Star Empire. We demand the technology that was stolen from us at the cost of much Romulan blood be returned immediately.
It's at this point that the Takarans hail everybody.
This is Takaran General Sobek of the Takaran Security Forces. We will not hand over any prototype materials to an invading force. We order that the Romulan forces retreat back to Romulan space immediately, and any and all prototype weaponry, including the scientist who created it, is handed over to the Takaran security forces immediately.
Right.
I am baffled that the Takarans think they've got any muscle in this game at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like, even with the Navis, 3 Daedrex class warbirds. Like, from sickbay, Andrews is like kind of messaging the captain like, yeah, we're giving this weapon back to the Romulans. Bollocks to the Takarans, we can take their flipping fleet.
This looks like the Takarans have done something that's very rare. They've made the Romulans to have the moral high ground.
Yeah.
How much does the Federation really want the Takarans, and can we convince them otherwise?
Natala, quick question. Does that thing's not going to survive another transport, is it?
Yeah, no.
This is going to be a long trip to hand it over, isn't
Yeah,
it?
well, I think we're going to have to literally advise them that it will not survive transport, and that we will have to either. Would they like to send a shuttle over for it?
I would probably say that we advise that the Romulans make as close as possible transport between the two ships, because the Takarans are probably going to want to open fire the moment we begin to open transportation. I think that
We have a spit.
Can we just ignore the Takarans and pretend we haven't heard them?
It's talking.
Yeah.
Talking.
Right, okay. We go, attention Takaran bitches.
Keval, how do you feel about piloting a work beyond remote?
Who a firefight?
No worries. Can be done.
I have a possible plan.
Go on.
We don't particularly want this to go back to the Romulans.
No,
we
I
can't
think
get away with it. And the Takarans are just going to cause a war if they get it.
No, I think realistically we have to hand this back to the Romulans. We know it's
I'm not saying we don't.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is we have put it attached to a remote-controlled work bay because we've got spares of them.
Oh, we let the Takarans and Romulans fight it out. We just back up.
No, and then we fly it over, and it's a terrible shame that this dodgy, unstable torpedo lost the last of its stability en route and exploded.
I feel we should look in for options that don't include the phase, and then we tore a hole in subspace.
Yeah.
Ideally,
Fine! That's what high warp is for.
I mean, if the Takarans shoot it, that's a whole different ball game. But we really don't want to be causing this explosion if we can help it.
Yeah. I think the captain would relay to the Takarans that technology that is blatantly Romulan and confirmed by the Takaran chief scientist in the the development program of said weapon. The Romulans hold more claim to this technology than the Takarans, and that the Federation have already been informed of the deceit that the Takaran military has provided on this requirement, and that any level of exasperation or agitation of this current situation will also be relayed to the decisions that the Takaran military make at this point may well determine their place within the galactic community going forwards, and it would be advisable that they do not interfere, but they also accept the repercussions of their previous actions.
At this stage, isn't it legitimate salvage? And if they would try to take it by force, they would be engaging in piracy.
That's a whole different question, but yeah.
The argument that they're going to try and place is it's their property and development, but obviously the counter to that is, well, no, you murdered a bunch of Romulans to get it.
Yeah, we have the proof and the evidence to confirm that this is wrong.
Whose definition of piracy are we talking about?
But that's why I think the piracy hasn't really come into it, because it's provably not anyone's in particular to start with, other than we know that the technology came from the deaths of Romulans.
So Taushiara's opinion would be mine.
Okay. So you're basically go on. Sorry.
In terms of trying to get this to happen without us being caught in the middle of a firefight, I think we very much need to treat the Romulans as victims and ignore any tension that we would ordinarily have with them.
Okay.
And then I don't just basically hope that the Takarans realise that all they've got is bluster.
Yeah, I agree. hence why that offering, that it is on an open channel. It's communicated that the weapon will be returned to the Romulan Star Empire.
Of course, we don't know if they've got a second one.
Yeah,
There's that.
this is true.
But
We
overall,
have the plans for it.
well, that's interesting actually, because anybody who wants to have a word with Dr. Jabren,
His
we'll
intention was to keep this away from his own people. So presumably he would have destroyed his own evidence before he left.
Something else that Nova will find on that datapad that she looked for is evidence of all the plans of the torpedo, which is odd that he'd have all the information, including all the tests and all the construction data that would ever recorded. That's a lot to bring with you just for a prototype.
Yeah, I think his original plan was just affected the Romulans himself. So, yeah.
So you basically want to say this was we have an eyewitness.
Yeah, I would say we have the last will and testimony of an eyewitness.
I would downplay the idea that we have him.
Who went over to the Klingon vessel to secure the weapon, but unfortunately has not returned.
So this is a bluff.
I'm not sure we need to go that far with it because I think we don't.
I think
the last will and testimony.
Yeah, all this.
The last will and testimony.
Yeah.
And that's not a bluff because he gave a testimony and we made him write it down as well.
Yeah.
We'll do shortly.
Okay. There's enough. There's enough telling the truth, but not all of it, going on there, and a lot of clever enough wording that I won't ask for a check. You put that very succinctly and nicely. All right then. So, the Romulan sub-commander, obviously very on edge, and Nova, even at this distance over subspace, it's a funny thing with. I've always found it a funny thing with Councillor Troy's empathy, is that she's always able to tell what someone's feeling, even when they're transmitting remotely over the view screen.
It's very powerful because in realistic terms, they're how many miles away?
Which suggests that transmitting audio and visual information over a long distance also somehow contains the information of their emotional state.
Yeah, you can pick up subtle like body behaviors and facial movements that relay emotion.
Now, if we use
micro expressions,
yeah, but if we also use the semi-pseudoscience of what reading someone's aura could be, essentially emotion is nothing more than a series of electrical signals in the brain, which are then releasing compounds into the body. And every living human, let's say, at the very least, has a biologically generated electronic field that they generate, and that could be interpreted as the aura. So empaths are able to actually read this aura, this electromagnetic information coming off of a person, which tells you which emotional states were activated.
I think Spock also did mind melds over view screen as well sometimes.
Yeah, so I can't confirm that, but it would make a certain amount of sense. So electronic information is being passed, so Nova will get obvious emotional states coming off of the anyone on the view screen. The Romulan sub-commander, obviously very angry, but Nova also gets the sense that he knows he's... what's the best way of putting this? He's playing up his aggressive stance because he knows that if questioned on it, he's violated treaty by exiting the Romulan neutral zone. So you may be in neutral territory, but he's still on a legal back foot. So Nova gets the sense of he knows that he's in legal trouble, technically, by taking this stance of openly bringing his ships over to this place. But at the same time, he seems to have a very... He's angry. He's extraordinarily angry, and that's kind of overriding his caution.
Subtly mute our comms and just feed that out to our tactical command.
So
that he seems to have acted in anger, but he knows that there's, like, we can play on the fact that he knows he's also in shaky ground to forge a better deal. Or a safer deal for us.
Well, both Nova and Andrews are technically sat in the med bay being deconned at the minute.
So Nova can, both of them can be watching this over a data pad or a computer terminal. And so, Nova can then relay this information via comms up to the bridge, which then can be taken advantage of by the captain. So,
to notify of the weakness.
Sorry, Shaun, I didn't catch that. What was that?
It just essentially, I'm notifying of the weakness that could potentially be used to better leverage.
Well, can you think of something that you could use to leverage the situation then, with that knowledge?
Yes, so it's purely on the fact that we'd be aware that they are also breaking the accords by entering them territory, so we can sort of pass this off more as a diplomatic relations situation and an exchange. So we give them this back, they get to go home to the Romulan Empire saying they recovered this lost artifact prototype.
Cool. You're getting similar vibes off of the Takaran general, but obviously for different reasons. The Takaran general is coming up with waves of anxiety that they've basically been caught, but he's also masking that anxiety with a lot of anger and bravado. Whether or not he'd be willing to... In fact, Nova, give me insight and command check to see if you can get a read on the Takaran general's willingness to go to war over this.
Do I use a value on this? I suppose we're nearly in here. So I've got empathetic orphan. See if I can get any sort of better reading out of them.
If you want to use a determination point, then yeah.
Actually, no, it doesn't make sense. It's more I protect people rather than. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, well, just the insight and command check then, please.
Yeah.
It's going to be just difficulty 1.
Yeah.
Do you want to use a momentum point to reroll any of those? Or both of those?
Momentum.
Okay. Reroll both results if you wish.
Yeah. Nope, you just bad at us.
Does anybody here have any particularly ethical values? Because I think we're going to have to tell them something.
Well tuned and highly polished.
Because I think we're going to have to tell them that they probably shouldn't cloak away whilst carrying this thing on board.
Oh yeah. I think we've got to be dreadfully honest with the Romulans on this, and say that it's unstable. Because otherwise we could have a very high diplomatic incident where we have just told that here, Mr. Romulans, have your bomb back. Oh, the bomb's gone off. Right.
Okay, we have a way we can tell them some of this.
Go on.
Just provide.
Would it be right to get our science and our engineers to give them a report before we hand over?
Mm-hmm.
And also slightly change the shielding on the chamber it's in, so we're giving away the large amount of tachyon radiation it's currently outputting, rather than trying to shield it.
Yeah.
There's
We're
also
still shielding it, but
Klingon
not hiding it anymore.
For don't have to hide it.
What was that
I'm
about
straight
the
up.
Klingon vessel, Jan?
There's also the Klingon vessel, which should bear testimony to the potential effects of this weapon if
Yeah,
used,
so
or not used, but carried cloaked.
So yeah, you use that as an example and say, yeah, don't cloak with this on because look there. Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's all good. So yeah, leveraging the Romulan subcommander's anxiety over the whole situation, but also his fierce anger over the whole situation, plus the Takaran, you know, they're making big noise. You know, don't trust the Romulans. Who's this person that apparently has given testimony? Can you trust him? Why would you trust him? All that kind of noise. But yeah, you basically managed to tell the Takarans, you know, look quiet, or just completely ignore the Takarans, which annoys the general even more.
I generally think the Takarans are annoyed, but if they do keep piping up, is that where the captain just kind of submits the report, which has already been issued to the Federation and the Klingon at Narendra Station.
So you
says,
freely give over information. Yeah.
Oh, flip,
quiet, children. You have been told. We suggest that your diplomatic corps engages with the Federation and the Romulan embassy very quickly.
What was that, Davis?
I think
It's just our captain's reply of, thank you for your comment. It will be forwarded to your ambassador momentarily.
I mean,
Yes.
given that basically we're going to be very clear that they have pissed us off. It's very clear that they have more than pissed off the Romulans. We're going to have to inform the Klingons that they may have to invite them into their alliance.
My God. The Klingon arbitration of the flipping.
Takarans have no other option but to end up underneath the Klingons.
Wow.
Probably the best place for them.
All right then. The Romulan sub-commander, he listens to everything that's said, and it's Nova very much. Well, everyone who was watching just sees the tenseness of his jaw relax, and his whole angry demeanor just kind of melts off. But he's left with a very. You don't see this in a Romulan, and some of you are trying to hold back the snark of, oh my God, a Romulan with a surprised look on his face. Quick, someone take a picture! It takes everyone's self-control to remain diplomatic, but the Romulan sub-commander came in expecting a fight, and is now completely taken aback by the fact that the Federation have basically gone, yeah, they did it, here's the proof. And we're giving this back to you. But before we do, here's a load of safety measures you need to be aware of. And the fact that he's getting all of this given to him puts the Romulan sub-commander on the complete back foot. He came in with the intention of being aggressive and expecting everyone to back down. Instead, he's been met with facts, figures, calmness, and a rundown of the situation as it is, and he's been given information by the Federation. And the sub-commander obviously he was not expecting that. It takes him a while to get his composure back, and he's reading the data as he keeps the channel open. The Takarans eventually give up screaming down the comms that the Romulans aren't to be trusted. This individual, the Klingons obviously can't be trusted because they just attacked their Federation allies. It could be a Romulan ploy. The Romulans painted the Duras symbol on the Klingon ship. You know, the Takarans start reaching for any and every lifeline possible.
Can we just block them? Just jam their communications?
You're just going straight to voicemail.
Yeah.
You just sort of like, you know, we've got enough power in the deflector. Just basically their broadcast frequencies, just jam them.
And eventually the Takarans, they give up. They've got no choice. They release a broadcast of, we are now returning back to our space, but this isn't the last you've heard of us. kind of indignant thing. But it's the kind of thing you expect someone to do if trying to get the last word before they warp out. And yeah. So are you guys just basically giving the quantum torpedo prototype to them, as is?
Well, I think we've confirmed that it's Romulan in origin.
Yeah.
I don't think we hand over Jabren's records because that's really good information on Romulan.
Never is definitely keeping that.
Romulan top secret weapons tech. Sure, we'll keep some notes.
But I think realistically, as a good show of good faith, the weapon is handed over in the container with the recommendation
we
of.
Really want to give them
we don't want to give them
casing for one of our own quantum torpedoes.
Yeah, we don't want to give them the casing of the quantum torpedo.
Listen, we can make something else that's efficiently armored to give them more time.
I agree with John.
Carry it over halfway. They take it out, leave it on their deck, take our casing home.
We've got the Klingon ship to basically be the place to drop stuff off, I guess.
Yeah, I think as a show of good faith, we say to the Romulans, we've currently got it in a very temporary container because of its instability. Give us an hour to manufacture a more permanent transportation method. The handover point will be the derelict Klingon bird of prey.
Okay.
And that gives us a chance to strip it out of our quantum torpedo shell. We stick it in a very large replicated lead
and anything else
container.
that the Takarans used that was Federation tech that they wouldn't necessarily have.
Yeah, cool. Oh, awesome. Yeah, you've been very thorough with all of that, so I won't request a roll for that. I already know you can create that safe container. So rather than using a quantum torpedo container, you've actually got the time to create something a lot more bland, shall we say. Maybe even stuff it with... Oh, no. Actually, no. Do you want to give them the secret... Do you want to give the Romulans the secrets of the energy-absorbing moss? Probably not.
No moss, thank you.
No moss. No moss for the Romulans.
Bloody Vulcans.
The Vulcans aren't having my moss. No way.
Yeah. I didn't get a medal for that moss just to hand it over to the Romulans.
All right. So, yeah, you create a package. Is it you putting it over or remotely piloted with a worker bee? That plan again?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We can't get kidnapped if it's remotely piloted and dropped off of a worker bee.
Fair enough. All right, that plan goes off without a hitch. The Romulans agree. Because they're still Romulans, they're still very cautious. So they agree.
We don't trust them.
I assume that they are passively scanning us, we're passively scanning them.
They're absolutely expecting this to be a trap. Yeah. Particularly with how nice we've been. They are so suspicious at this stage.
Yeah.
But when they eventually confirm that the weapon is on board, two of the warbirds warp out. Hang on. You just took me away from my warbird. Bop. The sub-commander, however, looks like he's about to give the order to leave, but then he kind of takes it back, steeples his fingers, and leans in towards the viewer.
I will not forget this, Captain. You have the thanks of the Romulan Star Empire. Do with it as you will.
And then they warp out.
Romulans are just misunderstood.
I suspect this was personal. I think maybe he had family on the base that was slaughtered or something.
Next question is, what are we doing with the Burrell class bird of prey? I assume internally, did we confirm that it was part of the Juras?
It bore the house markings, certainly, and
Yeah,
it is an
internally
older
as
model.
well. So yeah. I think.
I mean,
Yeah,
how
we
far would
definitely-
it be to tow it back to Narendra?
It's quite a
Why
journey, isn't it?
Why do we need to?
It's
an irradiated Hulk.
Do you reckon the Klingons will want it, seeing as it belongs to the Duras? Maybe if they take it once it's been cleaned up, maybe there'll be information about the Duras family that the Klingons will want to take back to their fin to deal with. I don't know Klingons all that well.
And similarly, there's a bunch of unburied Klingons just sitting at their desks on board it.
Yeah, I say we blow it up. It's the Klingon way. At the moment, they'll have all gone to.
Stovercore?
No, the other one.
Lloyd?
Graythor, wasn't it?
Grethel. Yeah, because they died in dishonourable combat.
Harsh but fair.
Died whilst fleeing with stolen goods. It's not exactly Stovercore.
Quantum torpedo then?
Quantum torpedo. I think it's an honourable way to say that.
Yeah. We don't owe them that much.
We don't have photon torpedoes on this ship.
I can make one within 20 minutes.
We just tow them and just let them drift into an asteroid.
Yeah, we definitely we don't actually have photons on board. If you look at what's on board, we don't have photons. We can't fire a photon. We don't have any.
Replicate photons.
We don't have any photons on board. I am not dirtying my torpedo tubes with a photon torpedo.
I can put a weather sat in it if you want.
Yeah, we'll just fire weather probes at it until it just slowly breaks apart. How many probes have we got on board?
How about we make a subspace destroying weapon out of tachyon and singularity to... Oh, wait.
I've got this big pile of moss research that's been hidden in engineering. I can fire that at it.
Now that you've given away all of these moss samples, you're not getting them back until we've made a torpedo.
You don't know. The only moss samples that I gave away were destroyed by the tachyon radiation. Also, Davis, if you were dumb enough to hide energy-eating moss in engineering, that might explain some of the power issues we've had lately.
Hiding it? I was assuming that's where you hid your research, so it wasn't in the medical.
Yeah. As we all go to warp away, we look at the power levels and go, "Oh, shite."
Bertram!
Fiber!
chugging back to Narendra Station at maximum impulse, or half impulse.
Vibers, if I found that you've been messing around with my moss, I'm going to force feed you that insanity-causing water I found on the same planet.
Wowza.
The banter in this group is fun.
Okay then, so yeah. You eventually return to Narendra Station, which of course means the ship will need to be put in for repairs. But you've engaged in combat with the House of Duras, you've uncovered a plot by the Takarans, and you've even managed to engage the Romulans in dialogue.
And we had the scariest game of Jenga you have ever seen.
Yeah.
I genuinely
Hebert's
think
willing
we
to
might
give
want
you
to,
guys a bit of shore leave.
Yeah, I think we do reach out to one of the Klingon friends we've made at Narendra to see if any of them know anything about whatever the Alliance has in the way of a diplomatic corps, because the Takarans have nowhere else to go and they need friends right now.
Yeah,
wow.
I think the cast is kind of like just casually just informs Blackwood that we've successfully had diplomatic building relations with the Romulans. So what have they managed to achieve on their mission? Nothing.
One other question is, what about Jabren and his request for asylum?
I think that he is handed over to Federation authorities.
So yeah.
But that's up to the Federation Diplomatic Corps and Justice side to debate on based on his report and his willingness to help the Federation, and the reasoning behind what he did, I would probably say that the Federation Judiciary Council would probably grant asylum.
Or depending on just how much scientific ability he has, he may well end up in the intelligence.
Yeah.
Admiral Hebert is apparently also very interested in co-opting him to the research division of Narendra Station. She thinks that having anybody having to work under Dr. Taliaferro is punishment enough. So.
Oh, well, that's I knew your superior. You have my condolences. Would you like a job?
Alright, now that I'm back on the bridge, Direxia, get off my bridge.
Alright then. Yeah, well done. You managed to negotiate a very tricky situation there with absolute and complete honesty. And yeah, who knows what the situation will have as far as consequences. But for the Takarans, it's certainly not looking good.
Not our problem.
Not
Diplomatic
your
Corps
problem.
can sort that out.
But you know what is still your problem, Andrews, that you have yet to deal with? Let's shoot.
Let's shoot!
No, well done, guys. That was a very difficult situation at the end there that needed to be navigated very carefully, and you did so. So well done. That's the end of episode... What are we up to now? Episode 4, That Which Is Unknown. Well, blimey, well done indeed. Which means that, of course, next thing that we'd have to deal with, off-scene, as it were, is, of course, rolling up of reputation, and sub-people are very close to maximum reputation, which means the next time we see the crew of the Navis, there might be some shuffling of the staff around.
Wait, I'm just going to do this.
What did you do?
He's made himself first officer, I believe.
If only that was an airlock.
It won't be an airlock, that's for Latude, not Linares.
There we go.
Well, as far as those of you who are watching the stream, or one of you, or whoever, thank you very much for taking part in this, the unofficial, what should have been the second half of the second part of this story, but it's been made the third part of this story. Thank you to the crew of the Navis for being awesome as always, and who knows what we'll get up to next week. So for those of you who are watching, tune in next week and we'll see what we got. Bye.
Bye.